और अरुण भी आ रहा है।
मेरा समय भी बच जाएगा और आपका काम भी समय पे पूरा।
परेशान क्यों हो?
हाँ, बिल्कुल सही कहा। कागज की वेयरहाउस रसीद देने से ऐसी काफी समस्याएं खड़ी हो जाती हैं।
हाँ, मुझे डर लग रहा है कहीं मुझे पुलिस
क्यों? ऐसा क्या हो गया?
जो विरोध से माफ कर
तो का काम है।
कागज की वेयरहाउस रसीद के झमेले से निकलो। बिना रसीद के मेरा भेड़ी हो जाना, उत्पादन का सही दाम न मिलना इत्यादि, इन सभी समस्याओं का
Parents came down, I just met them.
Madam used to be a very good journalist.
Used to be.
I miss her as a journalist. And I have told her that in addition to whatever you are doing, please keep writing and bring India today to what it was.
What it was.
वो मुश्किल है.
What it was. Nowadays it is only filled with supplements of Galgotia news. पता नहीं क्या हो. Have you met?
इतना लंबा है कि कागज के झमेले में ही उलझ जाता हूँ हर बार।
क्या तुम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ट्रांसफर शुरू क्यों नहीं करते? माल को बेचना ही नहीं, इसरो में बेचना भी एकदम आसान है। और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ट्रांसफर तो चंद मिनटों का काम है।
कागज की वेयरहाउस
जगह सुरक्षित रखता है। इसे कहते हैं ENWR, जिसके कई फायदे हैं, जैसे उपज की क्वालिटी।
अंदर आ जाइए। आप पूछ लेंगे तो बता देंगे, they will guide it. दो तीन केस किया करा है। Which your MP card? Yeah. Which batch?
96.
So again, as I'm saying, I was discussing with him. My contemporaries there from college days, Raghav Chandra, Sudhir Ranjan Mohan, all of that gang. But I had some very good. We did the economic. I don't know if you remember. We did the feedback.
हमने जो अपनी रिपोर्ट सबमिट करी थी वो भी गुड प्रोसेस और आल्सो द गॉडफादर। नहीं ये तो कर रहे हैं।
There's a lot of grids about the authenticity of.
कहाँ रह रहे हैं सर? ये it is all right. Wonderful.
Chinese के पास है। Alpha Motor is yesterday he said so you're part of raise the level of discourse.
और आप बताएं प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है, वो बताएं प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है।
WTRA क्यों नहीं कर पा रहा है? Why they are not even coming to
Sir, WTRA so they don't have any interest on the industry. So first thing,
I'm very Gupta from Haryana. I have been carefully planned to set up
सेंट्रल वाला सुनकर प्रश्न है।
I'm part of Star. Hi, sir.
Hi, Vinayak Chetty.
So I
was ex-MD Central वाला सुनकर, as well as ex-chairman WD. अब 20 years back I was CMD of National States Corporation. विनायक का नाम तो सुना होगा? हाँ, पढ़ा था टीवी पे देखा होगा।
also have some role to play
How old is WDRA as a regulator?
2010 it was started.
Oh, it's a new amongst regulatory authorities. Largely related to commodities which are not agricultural. So that side of warehousing I am little less worried about today, and seminars and discussions like this one today actually focus on the agricultural side of warehousing, which has never been honestly in the other than specialist institutions who know deep in the subject, but amongst policymakers, people interested in Indian infrastructure, the aspect of rural warehousing, agricultural warehousing has just not risen in consciousness. We somehow think that it exists and somehow food reaches us or rots or does whatever. There has also been an excessive focus on FCI. Now all this needs to change, and where agricultural warehouses at one level, there is a physical level where all of them need to modernize in terms of the ambient storage conditions, the conditions of hygiene, the massive absence of cold chaining infrastructure in the country is something to be embarrassed about as a country that aspires to be the third largest economy in the world. So there is a physical aspect of a complete upgradation of agricultural warehouses to modern world standards. There is a role that WDRA has to play also as an activist, developmental oriented regulator, which I think there are mixed views on the subject. And finally, when all this happens, there is the downstream derivation that our farmers and our crop producers need to see a vibrant ecosystem where warehouse receipts are recognized and appreciated as a tradable commodity in a far more seamless manner than exists today. Somebody in the morning, you told me that you have done about 9,000 crores worth of depository receipts. That is commendable, and I think it's a great beginning. But when you see the size of the agricultural sector and see the potential, we have miles to go. So both in terms of the commercial interest in first to create a system that is trustworthy on commodity receipts, and then build on that trust a system of trading which should revolutionize the way our farmers market their commodities and how much money they can make of it. So these are broadly the issues which we are here today to discuss. I don't want to say anything more than to say that it is our endeavor in the Infravision Foundation to raise the level of discourse, discussion, and put the spotlight on this. And Kaveri here, who's my colleague, is very clear that after this seminar today is over, we're going to go all out and require the support of many of you to actually raise the consciousness in the media. And this is the first of a series of many more to come, so that with each successive seminar on this topic, we are able to completely grasp the animal and also do very strident advocacy. I always say that while we get classified as a think tank, we are actually a do tank, because our objective is 40% research and 60% advocacy. And I'm proud to say that one of our first major wins, the first project we took up was the failure of rooftop solar in India. And that was 2 years ago when we started the foundation. We did extensive research and we came up with a completely different plan on rooftop solar, which we presented to PMO, we presented to PMESC, we presented to the MNRE, we presented to NITI. And lo and behold, two months before general elections, PM announced the Surya Ghar program. That's completely our work, Infravision. We have been told that it's not right for us to blow our own trumpet, but I can share with you that that was completely our work. So in our report, we had written for a 45,000 crore central subsidy for the scheme. We called it Suraj Se Rozgari, because we felt that a sunlight falling on the thatched roof of a poor farmer is like a 100 rupee note showering down, going down the drain. It is there to be monetized and should be treated not for energy, not just for generation of energy, but for a source of poverty removal. And our scheme clearly said that a farming household could expect to earn about 500 to 700 rupees net a month if such a scheme were done. So a 45,000 crore recommendation from ours, when the scheme came out, PM had changed the name to Surya Ghar. We had named it Suraj Se Rozgari. The scheme had 75,000 crores of central subsidy. So we are very proud of the advocacy that we did there for rooftop solar. Right now we are working on a slew of projects, some of them very sensitive, like compensatory afforestation, unified metropolitan transport authorities, etc., which you will soon see in the media. But we are now very clear that we are focusing our guns on agricultural warehousing and the derivatives of commodity trade. So thank you all for your presence, for being here. I have to say, I am extremely pleased to see the sheer volume of leadership that is present in the room today and the huge intellectual content that we have to discuss across the day today. So thank you very much and welcome to this seminar. Thank you.
So not enough applause, little more would be welcome. Thank you. We have to get you some more tea and coffee. Thank you so much. May I now request Mr. Faiz Ahmed Kidwai. He's an IAS officer of the MP cadre. He's served in the agriculture sector for long years and he's currently Additional Secretary of the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. We're so happy he's here today. Could you please come up and deliver your keynote address?
As we all have gathered today to deliberate on mainstream warehousing challenges and opportunities, it is very essential to highlight the critical role warehousing plays in enhancing the economic security of our farmers and the overall efficiency of our agriculture markets. Warehousing is not just about storage, it is about creating a more resilient and equitable agriculture ecosystem. It has a multidimensional role of safe and scientific storage and also serves as a node for trade and delivery and finance, not to a large extent, the extent with which we would like it to be. For our farmers, especially the small and marginal ones, access to quality warehousing can significantly reduce post-harvest losses and improve income stability. It is a safeguard against distress sale. The options for sale from warehouse itself at a time and price of their choice is something which would empower our farmers to a great extent. However, there are challenges which we must address. Many farmers still lack access to modern storage facilities, leading to significant post-harvest losses and reduced incomes. We must invest and seek private sector participation in expanding and modernizing rural warehousing infrastructures to ensure every farmer can safely store their produce. WDRA in May 2019 mandated that no warehouse man of a WDRA registered warehouse shall, with effect from 1st August 2019, issue any negotiable warehouse receipt in physical form and shall only issue them in an electronic form as an ENWR. So building on this, initiatives like the Electronic National Agriculture Market, which is ENAM, have demonstrated the power of digital platforms in streamlining agriculture trade and enhancing transparency. What was done subsequently was that the integration of negotiable warehouse receipts with ENAM since April 2020 represents a transformative step forward in order to take agriculture trade to the next level by capitalizing on newer digital technologies with improved transparency. It was expected that with ENWR options, farmers can secure credit from banks while retaining ownership of their produce, providing them the flexibility to sell when market conditions are favorable, thereby reducing their reliance on distress sale and enhancing their bargaining power. It can also introduce transparency and trust in the agriculture value chain, fostering more robust market participation. But in reality, the traction of ENWR-based trade on ENAM platform since its launch has been without much momentum and has not picked up as desired, although we at the Agriculture Ministry are trying to push this with the states. There are several challenges such as lack of adequate accredited infrastructures, quality standardization, higher transaction costs or fees, limited access to finance, intermediaries resistance, along with regulatory and other operational hurdles which are not making this possible or taking it to the scale which it should be. Addressing these challenges requires a coordinated effort to improve infrastructure, increase awareness and training, standardize the regulatory frameworks, and incentivize stakeholders to participate in ENWR trade on eNAM. In order to promote warehouse-based sale and trading of ENWR through eNAM platform and other registered e-trading platforms, and to boost transparent and efficient agriculture marketing, the department had set up an expert committee in April 23 under the chairmanship of Siraj Hussain sir. Its report was received in December 23 and has been accepted by the Union Agriculture Minister, and there is a steering committee constituted to ensure implementation, which incidentally I head, and we have been looking at the suggestions and we want to implement them as soon as possible. Apart from that, there have been other suggestions which we have received, like enabling secondary trade of ENWR on online auction platforms, enabling eNAM for secondary trade, an authority to regulate all such online platforms, ease of doing business and expansion of private online trading platforms, their facilitation by state governments through rules. Many state governments have modified their acts, but the rules are only about 3 or 4 state governments have declared their rules, which we are pushing. Declaring warehouses as market yards, facilitation through APMC. These are APMC Act modification. These are things which we are pursuing with states. And SOP for online trade. The AGMARC notifications, which sets the standards, enhancing those notifications. And also WDRA, facilitation through WDRA is another thing for registration, for onboarding through self-declaration, even allowing private e-trading platforms to trade in ENWRs. These are some of the suggestions which have come, which we are following. One or two more initiatives which I would like to tell you here is, we have 2 schemes through which we promote warehousing apart from other post-harvest infrastructure promotion. One is the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, where we give interest subsidy up to 3%, and then there is an agriculture marketing infrastructure through which we give subsidy on the capital subsidy. The experience has been good so far, but it has not been uniform across the country. There are some states which have utilized these schemes and they have really enhanced their warehousing capabilities. In fact, some states have even gone more than what the required capacity was. For example, Madhya Pradesh, the state where I come from, we have made many more warehouses than what we required. Apart from that, we are also, there was another demand from the industry for PRI incentive, prompt repayment incentive for post-harvest storage. So that we are in discussion with there is a PRI for the pre-harvest loans which farmers take on their Kisan credit card, but this was not available for post-harvest. So that is also in an advanced stage for discussion. Interest subvention is already there with PRI, with expansion of warehousing capacity, with expansion of ENWR trades. Another discussion which is also in an advanced stage, but we'll have to do some lobbying for that, is to give to compensate the farmers for the storage charges, so that a farmer, what I think most of us know here is that a farmer needs finance for his next season, and that is why there is a distress sale. So if somehow that is covered, either through a loan or through a collateral or through any such measure which is viable for the farmer, I think most of the farmers, at least in non-perishables, would opt to store their stocks for some time and then sell them when the prices are favorable. So this is the broad framework on which we are working at. Another 2-3 things I would like to inform you is, we have made a committee, and Siraj sir is also a part of that, along with some other senior colleagues. We want to make an ideal agriculture marketing framework for the country, which should be an ideal which all states should aspire to, and it should not only be infrastructure, it would be all across the sectors, for example online trade, for example futures and other such things. So set up, give a framework to the country through this agriculture marketing framework, and then on an annual basis try to rate states on where they stand on this framework, what have they done, and it would also include the regulatory changes which have happened across states. So kind of bring in some kind of a competition through them. And the third part of this is that if we can have a committee, we are proposing that, headed by the Agriculture Minister, with all the state agriculture ministers as members, to get the political buy-in on all these reforms which are very important and need to be taken up. So that I feel with this framework and with this monitoring and with this committee, if we can push these reforms and get the whole ecosystem together on what is required, I think that would be a big service which we would be doing for our farmers. I would request the members here to give us suggestions on this framework. Your think tank can also be, I think, one of our support partners in making something like this and then rolling it out for the country. So I wish you all the best, and I would thank you for having us here. The secretary was supposed to come, but today there's a cabinet meeting, that is why he could not make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I request tonight to come up.
Thank you.
I think that's something that we can actually assist you with. We'd be happy to do that. Moving forward, can we have Shri Siraj Hussain now, former Agricultural Secretary, Chairman, NERL, as I said, author of many articles, the Chairman of the Expert Committee, author of how we are together here today. Thank you so much. Please do come up and deliver your keynote address. We'd be really delighted to listen to you. Thank you.
Dear friends, I am thankful to Infravision Foundation for hosting this discussion today on warehousing. Mr. Raste has also come. Thank you, Mr. Raste. You took morning flight, MD and CDX from Bombay. It is not easy to get up at 4:30 in the morning and
Yes.
take 6:30 flight and then bear the Delhi traffic. So thank you very much. Now, I have known Mr. Vinayak Chatterjee for long years. Of course, he did not remember me, but I remember him very well. I was MD UPSIDC, and at one point of time, I think much before time, we had set up an agro park for which I had traveled to Israel. But the park did not take off because the time was not right. So when we discuss warehousing, generally speaking, we have the government stocks in mind and the Food Corporation of India in mind. So most of the discussion generally is about the government stocks, FCI and so on. So I will begin with that and dispel a notion which is propagated in media from time to time that government is short of storage capacity. So that is not true. Over a period of time, the Food Corporation of India and the state governments have created sufficient capacity for holding even stocks which are all-time high. So today the capacity with FCI and state agencies taken together is about 76 million tons, which I think is more than sufficient. In any case, we should not be carrying this much of a stock so as to occupy all this capacity. Mr. Vinayak Chatterjee may not know, but I think the previous government, of which I was a part in the food ministry, came up with a very innovative scheme for private participation in warehousing. It is called the Private Entrepreneurs Guarantee Scheme, under which the government said that FCI or these state agencies will provide a 10-year guarantee. Initially it was 7 years, later raised by Mr. Pranab Mukherjee in EGOM without any discussion to 10 years. So 10-year guarantee is given to private investor to construct a godown which is to be used by FCI of these state agencies, and rent will be paid even if stock is not kept. So that was private entrepreneurs guarantee scheme, and so far the government has sanctioned a capacity of about 18.8 million tons, another 2 million tons in the northeast, out of which some 15 million tons has been completed. So 15 million tons of capacity has come without government investing anything. The private sector has made this investment, but because these are not very large warehouses, you do not read about this in the media, because media will only talk about very big players, because media is owned by very big players. So obviously, that is why I keep telling Kaveri all the time that we need you as a journalist also, in addition to whatever else you are doing. And I am happy that she has participated, she has sponsored, hosted today's discussion. So I hope this will persuade you to write more about agriculture. Now, not only this, the Ministry of Agriculture has also been funding a scheme which is called Gramin Bhandaran Yojana. Mr. Kidwai mentioned that. Again, largely ignored by media. Some 68 billion tons of capacity has been created with the farmers. 68 million tons. So it is not that farmers do not have any storage capacity and they have to sell off immediately and all that. It is not due to lack of storage capacity that farmers are forced to sell. They sell because they don't have money to keep this stock till the next crop. And in many cases, they do retain these stocks. For NCDX, we have done a study in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. That study is also in public domain, done by Arcus Policy Research, my colleague Shweta Sani and me, in which we studied farmers of mustard and soybean, mustard and chana. And we found that farmers do store a part of their crop for realizing better prices in the off-season. So it is a wrong notion. We have also seen this in case of onion farmers. Onion farmers also retain a part of their crop, again under a scheme financed by the Ministry of Agriculture, and they also retain a part of their crop to be sold at a later date. Now, what is again not clearly articulated or not sufficiently articulated is that the farmers suffer a loss if the prices do not rise to cover the storage cost or interest cost or loss of interest if they would have sold when the crop was harvested. And we are seeing this, Mr. Chatterjee, right now in case of soybean. Right now, as I am talking, the new crop of soybean will be harvested in another 15-20 days time. The stock of previous crop is there with the farmers, some farmers. And the prices are less than last year and much below MSP and projected to fall further, unfortunately, unless the government intervenes. So MD NCDX is here. We have been meeting everyone in the government. We have also been writing in the media that the government has banned the future trading in agricultural commodity, most agricultural commodities it is banned for fear of causing inflation. So we have our professor from IIM Ahmedabad, maybe he will be talking about this. Several studies have proven that it is not true. The price rise is not caused, is not the major reason, not even the most important reason for price rise, there are other factors. So this year when farmers were sowing soybean in July, August, when monsoon rains came, fortunately very good rains this year, the farmers did not know what price they will get when they harvest their crop in late September, early October. So one of the items before this August House is that how to maintain a decent price for farmers, which the government itself has declared, which is called the minimum support price. Now, it is surely the responsibility of the government to ensure at least that much price to the farmers through various policy mechanisms. Now, whether it is a legal MSP or some other form of price deficiency or whatever, but that has to be ensured if farming has to continue. In fact, in a discussion, Mr. Chatterjee the other day, Harish Damodaran of Indian Express made a very good point that in 20-30 years time, we may not see enough production because land around major cities or even smaller cities is being converted into housing, industry, warehousing, big warehousing for Amazon, etc. Private sector is buying land all over the place, so there may not be enough land to cultivate and feed, and our population is projected to be 1.65 to 1.7 billion in 20 years time, 30 years time. So we should not take it for granted that we will continue to be food sufficient. In fact, even now, it is argued by many people, including Professor Utsa Patnaik, from JNU, who has been saying that our surpluses look surpluses because people are not able to afford food, many types of food, especially proteins, etc. And therefore we look surplus, and our high-ups keep giving statements that we can feed the world and so on. But in several cases, especially in pulses, we are watching 150 rupees a kilogram and so on. So we are not really safe. We are not going to be safe in 20-30 years perspective unless the productivity raises and infrastructure is created. So one of the failures of both NERL and our other host, Infravision Foundation, today is that the most important player who regulates this is missing. So that is Warehousing Development and Regulatory Authority, not here. But the former chairman is here, who has been MD of CWC and has very long experience of warehousing. So we look forward to his participation, and maybe WDRA will continue to take his guidance. So there are about approximately 6,500 registered warehouses, very small number for India. Registered warehouses means registered with WDRA. Only these warehouses can issue a digital receipt, what is called the electronic negotiable warehousing receipt. So two very good decisions have been taken in the last 10 years. One was taken by WDRA to mandate that it will be an electronic receipt. I think he was a member at that time. Mr. Patak was a member at that time. Then SEBI took a very good decision 3 years back, 3-4 years back, saying that all the delivery in future exchange, delivery of agricultural commodities in future exchange will only be through electronic receipt. Electronic receipt, for those, if there is anyone who does not know, I am sure all of you know that, electronic receipt is like a demat share. So as you hold shares in demat form with NSDL, NERL stores your electronic receipt in demat form. It is similar to NSDL. Now, there are about 6,000 warehouses. As Mr. Kidwai mentioned, the distribution is very awkward or skewed. Madhya Pradesh has a large number, Gujarat, Rajasthan are the other two states which have a good number of registered warehouses. Punjab, for example, India's agriculturally most prosperous state, I think does not even have 10 warehouses which are registered. There are reasons for that, but the point is that it is very skewed. Another important point is that registration of a warehouse is not mandatory. So the large Indian chains about which you read in the papers, like Star Agri and several others, some of them are supposed to be present here. I don't know if they have come. They were invited. So they have not registered their warehouses. There are several reasons for that, but ultimately the target of the government and WDRA should be to get more and more warehouses under the government's umbrella of registration. It has a number of advantages. I think in another session, Mr. Patnaik or someone else will talk about that. So going forward, and I keep mentioning this, that the entire currency was demonetized. 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees notes were demonetized. Everyone was put to enormous trouble. Many people lost their lives standing in queues and so on. But in agriculture, the next step of formalization of trade has not been taken. That could have come through making the agricultural trade also in the formal sector. So agriculture trade continues to be in the informal sector. Warehouses are not registered. The government does not know what is being stored there, who is storing, what is the time, and so on. As you know, the banks give pledge loans against the stocks kept in the warehouses. The banks are giving loans even against the physical receipts issued by warehouses, because issuing a digital receipt is not compulsory. It is compulsory only if you are in a registered warehouse. If a warehouse is not registered with WDRA, it can issue a physical receipt. The banks are continuing to give loans against that. The quantum of loan, pledge loans, is not known. It is not published by RBI, it is not published by NABARD. We have written about it, we have taken it up. Again, there are reasons for that, because some banks show it in SME, some banks show it in agriculture and so on. It is estimated that the quantum of pledge loans is something about 40 to 45,000 crores. Only a very small part of this is being given by banks as advances on the strength of ENWR. The idea of ENWR is that once a person goes to a bank with an electronic receipt, the bank should not have to do a very significant KYC in any form. It should be sufficient for the bank to give a loan. And NERL's success has been that it has been able to onboard a number of banks. MD of NERL is also sitting here, he will give you more details. So a number of banks are now giving pledge loans against ENWR on a digital platform. And this platform will continue to become more digital as more banks come on. We have recently held meetings. We have met the Governor RBI twice. Recently we held a meeting with Chairman and MD of HDFC Bank. We want more and more banks to participate in this. But as I said, it is not compulsory for warehouses to register themselves, and therefore the kind of progress which the government was thinking in 2007 when this act was enacted, I was still in the food ministry at that time when these discussions were taking place, that has not materialized. Now, there are several recommendations which have been made by the committee which I chaired. Mr. Pillai mentioned that. That report is available in public domain, and we hope that the central government, both the ministries, in fact there are 3 or 4 ministries which have an influence in this ecosystem. Ministry of Agriculture, as Mr. Pillai said, would like more farmers to benefit from this. Ministry of Food regulates WDRA. Department of Economic Affairs regulates the future exchange, SEBI, etc. And Department of Banking is responsible for banks, regulating the banks. We have been in touch with everyone. We wanted the ban on future commodities to be lifted, etc. But people generally think that if farm laws had stayed, all the problems of agriculture would have been solved. That is a wrong notion. I have written sufficiently about it. One of the good things of the repeal of farm laws is that the APMCs have survived. Because if APMCs had not survived, we would not even know the price at which a commodity is being traded. We would have no information, because one of the laws permitted trading outside the APMC only on the strength of a PAN card. So on the strength of if you have a PAN card, you could buy, sell any agricultural commodity outside the APMC premises. So that law was repealed, and so we have this information. And I was talking to Mr. Chatterjee this morning. At least I am not aware, Mr. Patnaik, of any APMC, maybe there are some, which has cold chain facility. APMCs are sitting over huge chunk of land in all major cities of India. In fact, in many places in Punjab, Haryana, you would find many APMCs in a district and near big cities. In other places also, unfortunately in Bihar, the act was abolished. So APMCs, you must find some time to visit these disintegrating APMCs in Bihar and what has happened to them. So, very good physical infrastructure in the form of land is available. What we need is more investment there, and this investment can come in PPP form, maybe, with your enormous influence in the government, Infravision Foundation can take it up. So this investment has to come if we want to reduce our losses, if we want better control over inflation in perishables. As you know, the cause of recent food inflation in the last 1 year has been perishables, vegetables, where the inflation touched 30%. And it is not that only poor people face that, even people like us faced food inflation, at least for vegetables. So the supply chain of vegetables, difficult to maintain. I am not saying that everything can be stored in cold storage, that is not true. At best, it can cater to the requirement of 200 to 300 kilometers. But we have seen the success of cold chain in perishables in several commodities. For example, we have seen it in case of apples. 15 years back, there was nothing. And then Adani set up a project in Himachal Pradesh, which was funded by us. I was Secretary of Food Processing at that time. And now there is someone other than the mandi traders who can buy the farmers' apples in Himachal Pradesh and then maintain the supply around the year. Of course, that also comes under a lot of criticism because many times the Himachal farmers are agitating that the prices being given by this Adani project are too low or less than last year and so on. But at least there is a buyer other than the trade. Earlier this trade was entirely in the unorganized sector. Delhi traders of Azadpur used to go and give loans to apple farmers and so on. So at least there is some organized player which has come in. So in apple it is good. Potato is a successful example for long years, cold storages. That is why you see no supply shock during the year. There are similar interventions which are possible, and I hope that Infravision Foundation can also lend its very strong hand to getting private investment also into the agriculture sector. That will be possible only if the government hand is relieved to some extent. I have written several times that it would be wrong to expect that government will get totally out of agriculture. That is not going to be possible because our surpluses are very marginal, as you have seen in the last 2 years, that we had to ban the export of wheat, we had to ban the export of non-basmati white rice, we had to fix a minimum export price on even basmati rice and so on. So government for some time till our yields go up substantially and we produce good surpluses, government intervention in some form or the other will continue. But we hope that it should be a lighter intervention, as little intervention or disturbance in the market as possible, and more predictability. Right now it has been quite unpredictable, and in the last 10 days we have seen a little bit of liberalization, at least beginning with sugar industry. But sugar industry, as you know, is very organized. Unlike most other agricultural crops, sugar crop is better organized because there are sugar mills in the picture. So they have a better chance to have an influence on government policy. Same thing is not there for soybean farmers. So I am hoping that Mr. Raste will be lucky this time and the ban on soybean. So Mr. Kidwai, we also need your intervention because your soybean farmers, they are your farmers. It will be really tragic if prices continue to be very low for soybean. One reason is that we are allowing very cheap import of edible oils. So the duty on raw crude palm oil import, the duty is zero. There is only a 5% cess. So because of very cheap import of palm oil, the other oilseed crops, mustard prices were also very lower than MSP for a lot of time this year. So we have to protect the MSP through various policy measures wherever possible, also by government intervention in terms of procurement, at least in major areas of production, so that the prices rise at least to the level of MSP. So I think there is a lot which we expect from a strong voice like that of Mr. Chatterjee, and I hope that today's discussion will provide some direction to getting more private investment and more freedom for private sector to operate, invest and create conditions which will enable farmers to get a better price, which will enable consumers not to get the shocks in tomato and onion, and from time to time you get these shocks. So I hope that there will be meaningful discussion and we look forward to continuing association. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. That was very well.
Mr. Shakti, I request.
Wait. This is very, 1 minute.
Sir, one photo, please.
Oh.
Thank you.
So clearly we are doing something right. It's something that's needed. May I request you all to take a short break for tea, and we'll come back again at 11. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming.
You were missing WD, right? That is the Department of Food is represented.
Director in Department of Food.
Wonderful. Namaskar.
And in fact, she was my colleague in CWC as well.
She is a lateral entry.
Now all this controversy about lateral. Monte Carlo was a lateral entry. Manmohan Singh is a lateral entry. These were all eminent people who were lateral entry.
But you can't compare that with an undersecretary and deputy secretary.
It's nice to see a very relevant people in the room.
Anyway, it's after that.
Chennai, remember. I did for you. And I want to be very frank, because you are retired and I am retired. From that corpus, we would be happy to give you a very honorary. I don't want your time for free. So, therefore, you will have a role in inviting people, shooting conferences.
Everything is fine from the place.
Thank you.
I was I was chairman of WD. He was a colleague who were working in Department of Food. And I retired as MD CWC in 2014. So आपसे पहले
Siraj Chaudhary.
सिराज चौधरी I used to dial your whatever operational head, warehousing head and all that.
Thank you.
कभी register करने जाता था मैं बोलता हूँ यार it's a bit of a close.
Lot of value. Somehow the state sector is able to manage वो अचानक 7 से कम क्या होता है
लिखते रहते हैं, पढ़िएगा बाद में बहुत ज़्यादा पोस्ट आते हैं।
So can we have you here? And I think you will be setting the context and telling us about the ENWR. We have a lot of FPOs and private warehousing corporations here as well. So I'm sure you know what you have to say to them. Thank you so much. Please do come here. Thank you.
Good noon. Chatterjee, I just told him I know him since my IDFC days. He may not remember that, but I used to be in IDFC. So I started my career with Nabard, and it was more than 3 decades ago. And at that point of time, when during our induction we were told that it was an age-old problem that farmers को market नहीं मिलता, farmers को middlemen लूट लेता है, और farmers को quality control नहीं होता. And 3 years ago when I came to NCTX and I asked people around what are the issues, and they said these are the same issues. So 30 years hardly anything has changed. You know, Indian agriculture has not changed for 30 years. But some things are changing, and some things are changing for good. And thanks to technology, the things are changing. Now what is changing? Nobody would have imagined that we will have INAM or we will have any of the electronic mandis that we have today. Nobody would have imagined that setting in some, district in Madhya Pradesh. So, Sirasa just mentioned, so I mean, farmers would have got the prices. So when I took over in NCTX MP, the first thing I did was I went to MP and to Hoshangabad, Sioni Malwar, a place which is known for its soya bean. And I met with a elderly farmer, and till then even I didn't know about NCTX. So one of my colleagues was with me, and I went, and the story I tell everywhere. We went and met with that farmer, and then my colleague introduced, he is MD of NCTX. So he looked at me, I know NCTX. I was wondering, how do you know? So he said, साहब मैं ऐसा करता हूँ, मैं शाम को घर जाऊँगा और देखूँगा केरला में monsoon पहुँचा कि नहीं. I joined NCTX on 7th of June. So there is a time when monsoon arrives in India. जैसे मैं शाम को घर जाके देखता हूँ कि केरला में monsoon time पर पहुँचा है कि नहीं और उसकी intensity क्या है. और दूसरा कल सुबह जाके मैं मंडी में देखूँगा. We used to have tickers in mandis where we are showing the future prices of soybean. वहाँ जाके मैं देखूँगा प्राइस क्या है सोयाबीन का. जब वहाँ पर जो प्राइस दिख रहा है वो मुझे इस साल के प्राइस से अच्छा दिखेगा और मानसून अगर ठीक ठाक होगा, उसकी बढ़ने की गति ठीक होगी, तो मैं सोयाबीन बोऊंगा, नहीं तो मैं कुछ अल्टरनेट क्रॉप. So that was the understanding of futures market at the farmer end. Right? Unfortunately, that understanding of futures market is non-existent in this place. Powers that be, they don't understand the importance of future market for the farmers. Unfortunate but true. And how stupid we can be. Because we are in a system where we live by either banning things or we live by putting restrictions. So one of the restrictions which people like to put, which is covered prominently by media, is stock limits. Now, what is stock limits? Or the concerned secretary will come and say, we have put stock limits and everybody has to report every day or every week to the government how much stocks do they hold. And everybody does that, bureaucratic work, शाम को बैठ के खाता भरेगा और फिर उसको transmit करेगा. Now all that stupidity can be avoided just by getting into a system which government has created in terms of this whole WDRA regulated warehouses, whereby sitting in Delhi with a click of button, a babu sitting in Delhi can know what is happening in any of the warehouses. What is the stock being held in a particular warehouse, sitting here in Delhi. Because the whole limit is known, whole stock is known, and whole movement for the day is also known. The bankers know it, anybody can know, sitting in Delhi. It is such a simple solution. You don't require that whole paraphernalia of stock limits and getting into media imposing stock limits. But unfortunately, I think Sir mentioned in the morning, we require Kaveri people like you and the media to support and let government understand this. Now ENWR, and there are some bankers here, and there is one more additional venue for you in terms of ENWR also. We just had a conference on a single commodity called turmeric. There are about 200 odd people. The single day conference from about 25 odd farmer producer organizations to exporters. Everybody was there, around 200 odd people, right from Acharya Balakrishna of Patanjali to somebody from Telangana, a farmer. A day prior to that, I met with those 25 odd FPOs who had come. These were supported by NCDC and some of their, they came on their, they gave me a very interesting thing. They said, ENWR is fine for us. You know, we get money. And as Sir was mentioning that we hold some of the goods with ourselves. But what happens is, at least for some of the farmers, you know, when you want to get your goods released, bank has funded you against your ENWR. But when you want to get it released and to sell it to the market, there might be a gap of about 15 days. We don't have money at that point of time. So bankers sitting here, you can have a new product whereby probably for a 15-day period, people are willing to pay something like 16 to 18% interest. Some NBFCs are already trying that product. Bankers should try that. That will be unsecured, but you will make a lot of money. In just 15 days, about 16 to 18% of interest rate. The difference between ENWR money being paid and the farmer actually realizing his whatever crop he's selling, realizing of that, right? So there is something which is very interesting, which just came to me 2 days ago, and I think there is an opportunity for the bankers. Coming to ENWR. Now, Patnaik sir is here, and unfortunately, Mr. Kidway has left. But one thing, you know, I was a banker, and now I'm, as an exchange, we are regulated by SEBI. So I've seen two regulators, RBI and SEBI. Unfortunately, this sector has possibly the most docile regulator. The most docile, I would say, one, they are not staffed, or they are not staffed adequately, or they have no interest in the sector. So the first thing which probably, and I request my friends in media to make noise about it, is WDRA needs to be shifted from food to either agri or to finance. For the simple reason that their clients or their people who are making all the financial decisions, either they are in finance ministry or they are in the agriculture ministry. Food ministry has no business to hold WDRA. It is not a ministry also, it's a department of consumer affairs. So it needs to be shifted and it needs to be made more active. The 5,600 warehouses is just pittance. You have, half the population is dependent on agriculture. And you have 5,600 warehouses under WDRA. And unfortunately, out of those 5,600, probably 5,000 would have been because of the efforts of MERL and CCR, not because of WDRA. These people made those efforts to bring those warehouses under it. I run, our clearing corporation. I know how difficult it is for us to get a warehouse registered. It's absolutely bureaucratic system which is not just working. Madam, you are there. I think this is a feedback for you, especially. And I'm very bright. I'm sorry about that. There are two other things which we expect from a regulator when you want to promote something like ENWR. Now, ENWR, I think Mr. Faizam Kidway also mentioned, there are two things. If I buy a share anywhere, Sir also mentioned that, I can trade it freely. If it is an NSDL, I can trade it. Even physically, I can trade it. But ENWR trading is something which is in the realm of imagination at this juncture. That needs to be freely available for people who are into business to give benefits to the farmers. That's number one. Second, I think Sir mentioned in terms of availability of warehouses. And he was the chairman of that committee and I was also a member of that committee. And there are at least one or two other occasions where people have said that unless you make those warehouses or you designate them as mandis, things will not improve. And that is something which media needs to take it up. There have been various references and various recommendations, but that is something which is required for this ENWR business to succeed. The last, if you have to make ENWR effective, this is a matter of trust. It is a matter of mindset, and it is a matter of convenience for the farmers. Unless we are in a position to make this instrument a trustworthy instrument, and trustworthy not for farmers, trustworthy their users, they are fine with it, but trustworthy in the eyes of bureaucrats, trustworthy in the eyes of the whole value chain. I think I was just speaking to friends from Financial Express, and he mentioned that, and I think even Sarasa was mentioning, that some of the private warehouse owners, they don't want to get into WDRA system because they don't trust it, and that this system will give them benefits, any benefits. It's not a question of 0.5% or 1%. It's a question of also ease of doing business. It's a question of also getting registered. It's also a question of what else do I get if I get registered under a WDRA system. And that what else is need to be addressed by all of us people sitting in here. So my request to the people who are attending this today, and especially Infravision as a recommendation, please recommend shifting of WDRA from food to either agri or to Ministry of Finance. That's one. Second, declaring all the warehouses as mandis and APMC, different states. Big amount of lobbying will be required at different states, and Chatrisa, you mentioned that this is the first in the cities. Probably we need to have them in different states where we can go to the different states and the state chief ministers and tell them that you need to declare it under APMC Act. And if that happens, I think this farmer will be in a position to get benefit of the whole electronic trade, which me and you, in terms of Amazon and Flipkart, we get it. Thank you very much.
Why not under commerce? Why agri and finance, not commerce?
I'll speak to you about it.
Yes,
Excuse me. Kaveri, you please.
Yeah.
You.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for making this so
No, very pointed.
very candid and frank.
Very specific.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Those were really specific and very interesting recommendations, and I think we can popularize those as well. May I request Professor G. Raghuram, he is our advisor and also former director at Bangalore, to come and take the stage. Thank you. Just one second. Give us a minute to set this up.
Morning to all of you. So actually, I've been not in any expert role, but had the opportunity to do a few studies related to warehousing, and also kind of oversee a study that TIF, the Infravision Foundation, had sponsored recently. In this area of warehousing and trying to build quality capacity. Of course, if we are looking at warehousing, agri-warehousing becomes the biggest focus area. But I think as a country, we may also want to keep in mind that warehousing in other domains, e-commerce or metals, or there are many other areas where the concept of warehousing, the concept of trading, electronic warehouse receipts, these apply. And so it's good to keep that as the larger picture. The other larger picture, of course, if you go into agri, is then the farmer. Farmer's income, farmer's distress sales, what range of cropping patterns, that becomes a larger issue. And I think Mr. Siraj Hussain is, of course, he's got deep insights into that. So anyway, with the context of this study was, of course, to look at warehousing and then get into the role of WDRA and, to what extent is the negotiable warehouse receipts really trying to help, or to what extent is it really happening. So we know WDRA set up 2010, 2017, there was a lot more sort of push. In spite of it, I think general agreement is that things are less than what it could be. Now, here are some larger questions, maybe in the overall context of warehousing and then agri-warehousing. So, of course, I think all of us need to worry about what is the status of warehousing in India and how can it help improve the supply chain, of course, reduce logistics cost. And warehouse as a concept, it's warehousing, stockyards, depots, multimodal logistics parks, all of them have the idea of a warehouse. Fundamentally, from a logistics point of view, if there is a mismatch between the supply rate and the demand rate at any point of time, things have to be stored. That's the only way we can match that. So I think that's the fundamental. And so agri, of course, simply because production in part of the year, but consumption is right through the year, naturally it's a very important requirement. Okay, that's the basic. But does the warehousing business leverage the full potential of value-added services, especially in the context of improving technologies? There is a big opportunity. Given that something has to be stored, are there other value-added services that can go with it? In the specific context of agri-warehousing, do we have quality warehousing? To what extent the current warehouse infrastructure facility is WDRA compliant, to the extent that WDRA is set up to bring that quality in? What improvements are needed for those that are not compliant? Whether the warehouses which have compliant infrastructure are registered under WDRA, even if they are, and we heard earlier that a lot of them are not registered under WDRA, and if not, why? What is the extent to which WDRA compliant warehouses attract bank financing? Then what enabling conditions are required to improve banks' willingness to lend? In the WDRA registered warehouses where the ENWR is issued, whether warehouse-based sales are taking place? If so, to what extent? And again, if not, why? Whether distant buyers are transacting based on ENWR without physically verifying the goods. I mean, even if there is an ENWR sale, question is, what is the trust? One is, can I just trade it as a document, but the sense was many people still want to inspect. And of course, to suggest policy measures that would result in improvements required in infrastructure and regulation so that warehouse-based sales are effectively facilitated. These were the broader questions, but specifically the study said, let's examine the progress of WDRA, examine the extent of ENWRs, examine the extent of warehouse-based sales, and of course understand the gaps in this. And we, in terms of data collection, we held discussions with a range of stakeholders. I mean, all the stakeholders that you could think of, and also had visits, Karnataka, Andhra, I must say Madhya Pradesh too. Of course, secondary sources of data. And putting all that together, let me not take you through numbers, it will take away time, but let me get to the concerns, issues. So these are concerns that we gathered. So warehouse owner concerns, I think, as was mentioned quite strongly, that there are a lot of transaction costs in the very act of registration. The perceived bureaucracy, registration charges, insurance, security deposit. So I think that's one thing that is a deterrent. Of course, WDRA itself has concerns. They obviously would want to worry about security of storage, the technology in the warehousing, lack of awareness among warehousemen and the workforce, and of course the non-compliance of physical infrastructure. banks, so banks were worried data, and accuracy of data, how many, what are the goods and quality of goods, and regulatory capacity of WDRA and inspection, who's inspecting, who's saying things are okay. And I think one thing that came through is that WDRA is, here is this body sitting there and has, rules, but when it comes to field level, there is a gap in the bandwidth. Software issues and integration with the exchange platforms, lack of awareness among warehousemen, workforce. So of course bank would rather rely on collateral managers, and as we heard, maybe non-WRA warehouses getting bank finance probably exists, but then there are other ways in which banks get their security. Of course, state governments, one is of course, if you look at their own warehousing, all the, at the time of the Green Revolution when we set up, especially the state warehousing corporations. I mean, CWC maybe has done a little better, but state warehousing corporations in general have not been able to maintain the quality of warehouses, and of course, they would like to bring in PPPs. The PEG scheme was talked about, and some of the state warehousing corporations have brought in private play into managing their warehouses. Rajasthan State Warehousing Corporation is an example. Okay, so these were concerns. Now, based on that, some recommendations. So, of course, registration. So, one thing is we need, I think that has come through, we need to get into a mandatory registration of all warehouses. I mean, the 6,000 warehouses is, really nothing is happening. Though, of course, from a capacity point of view, I think it's a little better than numbers, because larger warehouses are, more larger warehouses are registered. Still, this is what needs to be worked on. So could there be a concept of rating? So right now, it's a yes, no, you're registered, not registered. Does it make sense to have rating? After all, we did bring in the stock, the financial stocks as a parallel. So companies are rated, and there's a whole industry that is able to leverage rating. So would this help? Because it would give greater granularity to the concept. So, rating based on, of course, the services, the technology, the size, logistical access. Anyway, that needs to be worked on. Digitization. So, a portal and app for sharing information about individual warehouses, to enable the market to, ultimately you want to store, so you need to know space availability, location. Today, I think so, if at all, information is local. So how can this be made, much more easily available across geographies? So digitization towards that. Warehouses should be able to update all their transactions through apps in order to make available current information, because I think, so what kind of information to which stakeholder, what banks want, what WDRA wants, what traders want, what farmers want. So of course the whole area of ease of doing business, simply to be able to register and then conduct the further downstream transactions. So there must be guarantee to the depositors. I think that's important.
then ENWRs must become an opportunity for warehousemen to generate additional revenue. Is there scope? So the fact that we are, ENWR compliant and ENWRs are happening, does that give them some better benefits? I think that's something to be thought through. Insurance. What is the appropriate insurance required? Inspections and dispute resolution mechanism. Is that robust? I mean, potentially there could be disputes of people, the quality of the goods that are there. So of course, research and training, the whole area does need a lot more professional bandwidth. Of course, there are issues in the quality, and looks like one of the most common issues is moisture levels. And a lot of disputes are just around that. I mean, that's what we observed. And so how can some better science come into this? Consultative process for formulating guidelines, in terms of warehouse compliance and training programs for increasing professional management of warehouses and the regulatory aspects. So of course, greater responsibility for state governments, greenfield warehouses, the PEG scheme was talked about, other PPP models. It could be in the BOT format. So the case examples there are, of course, in Madhya Pradesh, where maybe the sense was there is more capacity. FCI is going in a big way with a lot of, I think based on the original silos that were there, the first experiment in Punjab, Haryana with the 3 destinations that was talked about. But I think now in many states, I think again Adani has been a major bidder where silos are coming in. Brownfield modernization under PPP model of the state warehousing corporations, because there is enormous capacity, and more importantly, not just capacity of a structure but land. There is a tremendous amount of land available with state warehousing corporations where additional capacity can be easily created. And I think RSWC, I told you, is one example where they have attempted this. So anyway, moving to at a policy level, I think research support has to be much higher to support the whatever is stored. What are the quality parameters? What is the best way of storing? How do you, provide trust that what is stored is indeed of that value? Creation of quality warehousing capacity. Maybe FPOs can also come in, the Grameen Bhandar, and to what extent, is more professional or more quality required there. Private sector, the PEG scheme. I think there have been some CAG observations on these. It's worth looking into that and try to bring in more quality there. Hermetic storage, I think, so though capacity at an aggregate level may be there for government procurement, but still during peak procurement, we have observed that we continue to use cap, and sometimes that is cover and plinth, and sometimes even just roadside stacking. The problem with this is that it creates a distortion in the first in, first out logic, because obviously the last procurement is the one that gets into cap and roadside, but when we want to release it, obviously you want to release the ones that are most vulnerable to quality issues, so you release the what came in last goes out first, and what got into a good go down, or we are comfortable holding on. So there are concerns that a first in, first out doesn't actually get executed. So there is this concept of hermetic storage, which is good for short term but much better quality. Of course, the whole idea of warehouse technology and management, conflict resolution mechanisms, then overall digitization, creating incentives for WDRA registration, and possibly getting into rating. Right, so these are the points that came up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor.
From food to finance or agri should be part of the policy.
I think so.
Yeah. Encourage.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Lovely. Very good.
Thank you so much. So we now have our panel discussion. May I request Jagan to come and all the panelists as well. 1 second, I'll just call out your names. And you just have your cards pick up there. Sorry. Saurabh Khanna, MD and CEO, NERL, our co-sponsors, and have been really very helpful. Umesh Rathore, Vice President, NAPCON. The consultancy arm of NABARD, Priya Jacob, may we have you on stage, Director Logistics, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Rajendra, I don't quite know how to pronounce this surname, Iche, Vice President, HDFC, Sanjay Gupta, NCML MD, Jan Chaudhary, owner Chaudhary Warehouse, and Jen Chatterjee. There are 2 Jens. Jen Chatterjee, CEO, Star Agri Warehousing and Collateral Management Limited. Thank you so much. Just 1 second. Let me just this. And during the panel discussion, we'll also have some of the FPOs, giving their opinion on what has happened so far. So please be ready for the mic to come to you. Thank you so much. Have we gathered everyone here?
You just need the name tags.
So, thank you very much for joining us on this panel. We have heard a whole rich set of inputs and observations and quite a few in-depth reflections as well. And we are hoping that through this panel, आप सबको स्टेज पे इसलिए बुलाया है कि आपके reflections in some points के ऊपर हम gather कर सकते हैं. So we'd like to have a quick round of first observations, and then we can engage in a discussion, and then we can have a Q&A from the audience as well. So if I can just start with Mr. Saurabh Khanna. Mr. Khanna, you are in some fundamental sense holding the key ingredient to the larger ecosystem that we are trying to unify here. And that's the digital instrument. Where do you see this going? Are you looking at the evolution of the kinds of value-added points which Professor Raghuram talked about? Once you have created that digital instrument, it can be expanded as a digital ecosystem. So if you could share a few reflections on that.
Yeah, thanks, Jagan. I think audience पे काफी सारे हमारे FPO भाई बैठे हुए हैं, तो जी मैं हिंदी में ही बोलूँगा आपके लिए. तो डिजिटाइजेशन को लेके काफी चर्चा हुई है आज, और आगे भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो एग्रीकल्चर एक ऐसा सेगमेंट है जहाँ पे अभी भी डिजिटाइजेशन जो आया है वो थोड़ा सा प्री हार्वेस्ट की तरफ ज़्यादा आया है. पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट की तरफ डिजिटाइजेशन उतना नहीं आया. और अगर हम कॉस्ट की बात करें तो जो कॉस्ट के जो फैक्टर्स हैं वो एक काफ़ी हद तक डिजिटाइजेशन से कम होते हैं. तो अगर जितना डिजिटाइजेशन स्पेस में आएगा उससे ओवरऑल पूरे वैल्यू चेन में इम्पैक्ट आएगा और कॉस्टिंग भी कम पड़ेगी एंड कंज्यूमर्स को. जहाँ तक गवर्नमेंट के इनिशिएटिव्स का सवाल है, एक पहल हो चुकी है जो कि आप कहेंगे कि डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ दी रिपोजिटरी को लेकर, जिससे कि कमोडिटी का डिजिटाइजेशन के बारे में बात आए, बट वो अपने आप पे पूरे वैल्यू चेन को सस्टेन नहीं कर सकती है. that can be one of the part of the entire value chain. Value chain को अगर sustain करना है तो ये जैसे बात हुआ कि इसकी ट्रेडिंग होनी चाहिए, और अगर ट्रेडिंग होती है इस पर्टिकुलर इंस्ट्रूमेंट की तो फार्मर्स को भी और आपके जितने भी इस वैल्यू चेन के स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं उनको फायदा तभी मिलेगा जब उनको उनका वैल्यू मालूम चलेगा कि इस पर्टिकुलर ट्रेड से क्या मिल सकता है. तो डिजिटाइजेशन कंप्लीट होलिस्टिक इज अ रिक्वायरमेंट. इनिशिएशन है बट काफी काम बाकी है.
थैंक यू. उमेश राठौर जी, आपसे मुझे ये पूछना था कि जैसे सौरभ जी ने बताया कि डिजिटलाइजेशन तो शुरुआत है और उससे आगे हम बढ़ सकते हैं. आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नैपकॉन्स फार्मर्स को भी और दूसरे कंपनीज वेयरहाउस ऑपरेटर्स सभी को सहायता देता है, तो कुछ आप इसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा हमारे साथ ज्ञान शेयर करिए कि किस टाइप के प्रॉब्लम्स लेके आपके पास आते हैं क्लाइंट्स, किस टाइप की सहायता चाहिए होती है.
थैंक यू. So I'll try to speak in Hindi. इसमें अगर हिंदी आएगा तो चलेगा. So as you are aware, कि NAPCONS is subsidiary promoted by NABARD. So agriculture and rural development has been our focus since inception for last 21 years. And logistics and supply chain management has been a key component of that journey. So we have been involved in various assignments related to warehousing since our inception. और हम लोग जो जितने भी स्टेक होल्डर्स है लाइक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स एज वेल एज सेंट्रल एजेंसीज उनके लिए भी कंसल्टेंसी का काम करते हैं और कर सकते हैं कि लाइक जैसे डिजिटाइजेशन की बात हो रही है तो अगर हमें ज्योग्राफिकल लेयर अगर उसका बनाना है कि कहाँ पे क्या वेयरहाउसिंग कैपेसिटी अवेलेबल है whether with cooperative sector or with large warehousing services providers या फिर individuals. और फार्मर्स के लिए अगर वो एक्सेस करना है कि उनके पास नियरेस्ट वेयरहाउसिंग अवेलेबल क्या है उसमें हम काम कर सकते हैं. प्लस PNU सपोर्ट जो रिक्वायर्ड है कि वेरियस जो स्टेक होल्डर्स को कि वो मैनेज करने के लिए दैट वी कैन प्रोवाइड. प्लस जो इंडिविजुअल फार्मर्स और जो FPOs है तो उनके लिए जो वेयरहाउसिंग बनाने के लिए जो साइंटिफिक स्टोरेज का जो गाइडलाइंस है रिक्वायरमेंट है सब्सिडी अवेलेबल जो है उसके लिए भी NAPCONS जो है कि इंक्लूडिंग DPR प्रिपरेशन एज वेल एज असिस्टेंस इन गेटिंग सच सब्सिडीज ये हम कर सकते हैं. प्लस जो दूसरे जो इम्पोर्टेंट स्टेक होल्डर्स है कि फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड बैंक्स कि जिनके लिए भी ये टॉपिक थोड़ा सा नया है कि लाइक दे आर नॉट देयर जो होल हार्टेडली ENWR में वो नहीं है तो उनके लिए भी वो जो जर्नी को थोड़ा ज्यादा स्मूथ बनाने के लिए वॉट एवर सपोर्ट दे नीड दैट NAPCONS कैन प्रोवाइड. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Umesh ji. I'll move to Ms. Priya Jacob. You're Director Logistics at the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. We have heard several of the speakers earlier also talking about the fact that this ecosystem में हमें incentives provide करने की ज़रूरत है. तो आपके point of view से किस type के incentives government provide कर सकती है ताकि ये पूरा जो ecosystem है ये एक तरह से मजबूत बन जाए, जिसमें रिसीट्स के बेसिस पे हम ट्रेडिंग कर पाएँ, गुड्स हमारे जो है वो मूवमेंट उनकी फैसिलिटेट हो जाए. इन चीज़ों में क्या हम इंसेंटिव्स प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं? क्या सरकार इसके बारे में सोच रही है?
Yes, sir. Rightly said, sir. Actually, what we are looking at is, as the topic of today's discussion is also financing part, warehouse financing. So, as rightly said by Saurabh Khannaji, the pre-harvest loaning is currently around 21 lakh crore. That is, if you take the credit loan and the crop loan together. But in fact, the post-harvest loaning is still at 40,000 crores. So, we at DFPD want to improve these numbers, and our target is around 5 lakh crore. How to improve this? So there are 3 pointers which I want to, what is done by the Government of India to improve this financing is, first we have come up with E-Kisan Upad Biji portal, which is attached to the Jan Samrat portal, wherein we facilitate easy pledge financing of these loans, wherein a person who has an ENWR just gets enrolled in the system and the banks can approve a loan, and in principle approval of the loan he can get in the portal, and whereby it promotes the pledge financing, avoiding his distress rate. The second initiative, which is almost through, is the very important scheme which banks were very keen, as banks will not hesitate to come forward to give the loaning. So for that, we are working on a credit guarantee scheme, which is a very important move by the Government of India. So wherein we would have a credit guarantee scheme in place of a corpus of 1,000 crores supporting this finance of ENWR pledge financing, which is almost through, and we will be soon looking forward for this approval, which would develop this and will give the banks confidence of this loaning system. So this can improve the ENWR. Other than that, as rightly raised by the lot of concerns regarding the registration of the warehouses and the inhibitions and the challenges in the registrations, we are working on an insurance product with IRDA so that it would reduce the insurance costs for these warehouse men and the inspection charges, the transaction costs. We already given a gazette notification July first week on the reduction of DST, that is the dynamic security deposit, also almost half. So the government is very keen, as many of the, I really understand your concerns, sir, emotional thing. We are really on the thing to improve the system, and it's good that we have a round table like with all these stakeholders, so that we can jointly, instead of saying that it has to be pushed here and there, I would say that this is a very good forum where round table we sit along and we solve these concerns. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Priya ji. I'll move to Aparna ji. Aparna ji, आप NABARD के साथ हैं, और जैसे प्रिया जी ने अभी बताया कि मिनिस्ट्री एक तरह से फार्मर्स और वेयर हाउस ऑपरेटर्स सभी का जो रिस्क है उसको कम करने के लिए नई पॉलिसी इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ला रही हैं. NABARD is at the center in some sense of this overall sort of ecosystem as well as an organization. आप बहुत लंबे समय से आप फार्मर्स को भी हेल्प कर रहे हैं और ये पूरा इकोसिस्टम बना रहे हैं. क्या इसमें कुछ नए एलिमेंट्स का नए पहलू आए हैं फाइनेंशियल साइड पे, जैसे कि क्लाइमेट या ग्रीन फाइनेंस, जिससे हम इस पूरे इकोसिस्टम को और मजबूत कर सकते हैं और फार्मर्स और वेयरहाउस ऑपरेटर्स को भी एक तरह से नए इंसेंटिव्स मिल सकते हैं?
गुड मॉर्निंग ऑल. तो ये ENWR सिस्टम जो है,
बस थोड़ा सा
ENWR सिस्टम जो है वो ग्रीन फाइनेंस के लिए whether it can be used, this is the question sir. वैसे अगर देखा जाए तो जो रेगुलर फाइनेंस है उसके लिए लाइक प्रोडक्शन क्रेडिट जो है, प्री हार्वेस्ट है, पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट है, उसके लिए यूज मीन्स bankers are financing with the help of this platform. But then in case of climate finance, as of now it is I can say in a very incipient kind of state to say. Because in case of ENWR, regular financing, the system is sort of established. Since morning we are hearing about ease of doing business, so more or less the things are in place, only it needs to be given a boost. But climate finance mein, as of now, it's a challenge. There are certain reasons for it. The main thing is, in case of let us say banking sector or financial sector, when I say financial sector, we are including NBFCs also. So banks and NBFCs, for their green finance, lot of work needs to be done, or I can say that it's still evolving. Even here the low-hanging fruit for green finance is mitigation, where solar energy or let us say wind power. So banks have been traditionally financing this low-hanging fruits. The system for identification and tagging in case of green finance is is a work in process. My banker friends would like to give some inputs regarding this. So the first and foremost thing is we need to develop a taxonomy for green finance. So NABARD has done its part, or I can say for our internal use, we have come out with a taxonomy for green finance. And at the same time, we have come out with a product, a blended finance for solar rooftop as well as housing. So now if we see how this financing can be done by banks, let us say a farmer is, some examples I would like to quote here. A farmer is using biopesticides, biofertilizers in his field. Or another farmer, he is into, let us say, agroforestry. So he is using climate sustainable practices, agricultural practices. But when he goes to a warehouse, whether he will be in a position to store his goods as climate friendly produce, whether it is possible at this point of time, all of us need to reflect on this. So here comes the role of warehouseman, or more specifically, here comes the role of this platform, ENWR platform. Can we enable the farmer, or can we brand the produce of farmer as climate friendly? Would it be possible for us? So if that is possible, then the next question is, how do we convince a farmer to do this? Yes, for that sensitization of farmer is required, and from NABARD side we are ready to play our part. We can through our FPOs, or let us say through our primary agriculture cooperative societies, we can sensitize the farmers. We can do this. Our DDMs are there in the district, so that part can be done by NABARD. And then if we see the entire this supply chain of, let us say, climate finance, supply chain of climate finance. So who are the major stakeholders? Starting with farmers, then when he takes his produce, it is warehousemen, then the platforms like ENWR platforms, government machinery, and then banking sector. So from banking sector also, let us say, some kind of incentives are there for the farmer who is storing his produce, his green produce or climate friendly, the produce which he has, the production which he has come out with the help of climate friendly agriculture practices. So some kind of discount, let us say 50 basis point interest is less, or the quantum of finance which he is getting is more. So then yes, the farmer will definitely feel incentivized, and that is
Thank you.
So
that adds to what Priyaji was talking about in terms of creating an enabling ecosystem. Thank you. The way that we had talked about the roundtable was, in a sense, public sector and private sector meeting, although I see that there are no real divisions. All of you know each other quite well and have been interacting. So we'll just continue down the line. And Gajendra ji from HDFC Bank, you are Vice President in the bank. In some senses, हमारी सबकी नजरें आपकी तरफ हैं. How can you help us also improve this overall environment? So I'll ask a very simple, open question to you. What do you see as being, from a banker's perspective, the missing pieces or the missing components? What do we need to pay more attention to that we are not currently paying attention?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I should thank Saurabh to make me the part of this discussion. Thank you so much. So, see, as a banker, see, there are two things bank wants. When a bank invests money, the money should come back with security. So whatever interest is there, and this should be a secured lending. So all the bankers here will agree with me. So if we talk about this ecosystem, infrastructure, of course, it's lacking, but today we had a discussion, we have sufficient infrastructure, but I will have a different opinion on that, because whatever is available for the bankers to fund, it is very limited. So that is one part. So it's a very good scheme which is now there available, Agriculture Infrastructure Fund scheme. So that is giving a lot of boost to infrastructure, and I think that will go on for the next 9 years now. Only 1 year has gone back, 2 years has gone there. So that will help us. There people get incentive of 3% benefit of interest, subvention from the government. Secondly, there are some subsidy schemes which are going on. So there are so many schemes going on, but they are all scattered around all over. People know, people may not know. So the actual infrastructure is not getting created in the rural area. So when I go and fund to a farmer, he will say that I will not be able to keep the commodity in a warehouse which is 100 kilometers away from my location. So that rural infrastructure has to be available. So there somebody has to work, and 3% may not be sufficient. It's a very good amount. 3% is not a small amount, but it may not be very sufficient for the people to go and invest there. Corporates would not like to go and invest there. Maybe, because it may not be a profitable venture for them. So there we have to think about it. How do we increase rural infrastructure for warehousing? Unless you do that, you will not be able to actually incentivize the farmer to keep the commodity there. He is not going to spend money on transportation for so many kilometers. That is one. Secondly, when we talk about digital receipts and all, so ENWR is a very good tool. I would say that we have always been there for this instrument, because we know as a bank that this is the only instrument which can make us very safe when we talk about funding. There are so many multiple licensing authorities. When in the morning we are talking about so many receipts getting issued. So there are so many licensing authorities. That is why you have so many receipts. If we have one licensing authority, you will have only one receipt. So we have to think about that. How do we consolidate? Madam may be able to tell better. How do we consolidate all the agencies who are issuing receipts? Or issuing licenses rather. So it is also for Kabil Madam to have this voice somewhere, that so many licensing authorities giving license to issue warehouse receipts. So that is one we should think about it. How do we make it a uniform licensing pattern? Then there is one missing link. We have always been talking about that, yes, storage should be regulated, or we should have a regulated pattern of doing storage and all. There is an expert who is doing business in this market since so many years, 20-25 years. That is collateral manager, who is missing from the system right now. When WDRA came into picture, it was discussed that maybe after some time we may not need collateral managers. My friends are here, collateral managers, so don't take it otherwise. But there was a discussion. But it does not mean, when an ecosystem is there, somebody is expert in that, if you keep that full institution out of that total system, then how do you expect that this will flourish and it will move very fast? So somewhere, no, collateral managers should be included in this system, ecosystem, and they should be regulated. When you have a regulation on the collateral managers, then the problems which were there in the industry, the bankers are facing, like frauds happening in some locations. So there are very strong collateral managers who have very good experience, good infrastructure. But because new people coming in without a regulation, they are creating an issue, and now this system is getting, it is not getting so much of recognition as of now. So these are few points which may come up, and I should thank Madam that she has just told about which we were asking, the credit guarantee. So that will give a good boost to the system. Because once credit guarantee comes, you have You don't have to think about twice. Today, if something happens, I need to go to the warehouse man, ask him that this is the problem. आप पैसे दे दो, बोलेगा अभी है नहीं, कल देता हूँ, परसों देता हूँ, something like that. So if that credit guarantee is there, the bankers are assured of their investment. So there are so many things, but I think we have to limit it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, you've given us three very important points, and I think the collateral manager element is, we didn't get to talk about it till now, so thank you for adding that. I'll move to Mr. Sanjay Kumar Gupta, and he's MD and CEO of NCML, National Commodities Management Services Limited. Sanjay ji, एक point तो गजेंद्र जी ने बताया about the need to add these new elements, also to be able to give the credit guarantee, as Priya ma'am mentioned. But we have a more structural problem, which is that we are not achieving as much post-harvest storage as much as we are for the inputs that are going into agriculture. आपके point of view से क्या reasons हैं इसमें? और क्या इन चीज़ों में हम कैसे इसको improve कर सकते हैं इस सिस्टम को?
सी जैसे आपने पता कि पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट जो है क्रेडिट वो प्री हार्वेस्ट से बहुत कम है, वो होना भी चाहिए क्योंकि जो प्री हार्वेस्ट क्रेडिट है वो जितना इंडिया में एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है उसको फाइनेंस कर रहा है, और पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट जो सरप्लस है जो स्टोरेज में आ रहा है सिर्फ उसको फाइनेंस कर रहा है। और जैसे हमने सुना कि जो हमारे सरप्लस है वो बहुत छोटे हैं, तो वो कभी बराबर तो हो नहीं सकता, वो उससे बहुत कम ही रहेगा। लेकिन जो मैं इसमें समझता हूँ जो गवर्नमेंट का चैलेंज है वो हमेशा ये रहा है कि जो पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट क्रेडिट है और जो पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट फाइनेंस है, इसकी जो सुविधा है वो किसानों तक पहुंचाई जाए, ताकि वो बेचारे जब सीजन आता है, जब रेट गिर जाते हैं, मजबूरी में अपना माल ना बेचें, जो फाइनेंस की नीड है उसको रख के और आगे जब प्राइस बढ़े तो उसका बेनिफिट ले सकें। बट एक ये सवाल सोचने की है कि इतने साल हो गए हमारे देश को आज़ाद हुए, अभी तक ये कामयाब क्यों नहीं हो पाया। मैं यहाँ पे एक कोलेटरल मैनेजर हूँ, मेरे साथी भी बैठे हैं, बहुत सारे जो वेयर हाउस सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स और कोलेटरल मैनेजर हैं। ये कड़वी सच्चाई है कि आज की तारीख में भी 90-95% जो स्टॉक हमारे पास है वो ट्रेडर्स का है, किसान तो ऑलमोस्ट जीरो है, बिल्कुल जीरो है। तो अभी गवर्नमेंट भी आई एम श्योर इसके लिए कंसर्न है, गवर्नमेंट बहुत कदम भी उठा रही है, अभी AIF को बोला वेयर हाउस बना रहे हैं। बट एक बात और भी है इस इंडस्ट्री में कि इस इंडस्ट्री में कोई जो वेयर हाउस स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी है ना, उसकी कोई कमी नहीं है। सी एज ए कंपनी हम आज की तारीख में करीब 1000 वेयर हाउस ऑपरेट करते हैं, जिसमें सिर्फ 40 हमारे हैं और 960 हमने बाहर से लीज पे ले रखे हैं। और जब भी हमें किसी एरिया में भी जाके कोई वेयर हाउस लेना होता है, आज तक कभी ऐसा सिचुएशन नहीं हुआ कि वेयर हाउस ना मिला, बल्कि ये हालत होती है कि हमें एक चाहिए होता है, 5 लोग आते हैं। तो ये ओवरसर्व्ड मार्केट है। तो इसमें अब PACS का लोग जो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन ये ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? सी हर एक बिजनेस का एक ऑप्टिमल साइज है, मिनिमम इकोनॉमिक साइज है कि उसके नीचे वो चलेगा नहीं। अब जैसे गजेंद्र ने बोला, जब वो किसी को लेंड करेंगे वो 2-4 चीजें देखेंगे, वो जो बोरोवर है उसका ड्यू डिलिजेंस करेंगे, जो फैसिलिटी है उसके ऊपर भी फेथ होना चाहिए, और एक सर्विस प्रोवाइडर होना चाहिए जो विल इंश्योर करेगा जो उनका कोलेटरल है वो ठीक से मेंटेन हो। अब छोटे छोटे 100 टन के वेयर हाउसेस अगर दुनिया पूरे हिंदुस्तान में फैल जाएंगे, कौन मैनेज करेगा उनको? आज एज ए कंपनी हमारे पास 5000 टन से नीचे का अगर वेयर हाउस होता है, हम उसको मैनेज नहीं कर सकते। मिनिमम वेजेस के एक्ट से कंप्लाई करना है, WDRA के एक्ट से कंप्लाई करना है, इनकी अगर आप कॉस्ट देखोगे। और दूसरी बात एक और है, इंडिया में एक तो स्ट्रक्चरल प्रॉब्लम और एक तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सरप्लसेस आर वेरी मिनिमल, बहुत कम सरप्लसेस है ना हमारे पे। जैसे सिराज साहब ने भी बोला और उन्होंने भी बोला, एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन है वो ज्यादातर सब्सिस्टेंस एग्रीकल्चर की तरह है, जो हम बनाते हैं प्रोड्यूस करते हैं वो खा लेते हैं। अगर ये जो और ये भी वेरी होता रहता है मानसून के ऊपर। अब पिछले साल बारिश साउथ में नहीं हुई तो वहां पे सूखा पड़ गया, तो एज ए रिजल्ट कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ फिक्स्ड एसेट एज ए प्राइवेट सेक्टर होती ही नहीं है, क्योंकि आपके पास एश्योरिटी नहीं है ना। आज आपको जरूरत है इस एरिया में वेयर हाउस की, अगले साल जरूरत नहीं रहेगी, कहीं और जगह किसी और जगह सरप्लस क्रिएट हो जाएगा। तो इन सबको देखते हुए मुझे लगता है कि गवर्नमेंट को अपना फोकस इस बात पे रखते कि इंस्टेड ऑफ कैपेक्स, अगर वो ऑपेक्स फार्मर को, अब वेयर हाउसेस दूर है, जो प्रोफेशनली वेयर हाउस जो मैनेज वेयर हाउसेस दूर है प्रोडक्शन एरिया से, सब जगह प्रेजेंट नहीं है, वहां पे उनको किसी तरह से फैसिलिटेट किया जाए कि फार्मर्स उन बड़े वेयर हाउसेस में अपने माल को ले आए, जो उनका खर्चा होता है उसको कुछ मैनेज कर सके। तो आई थिंक ये बहुत एफिशिएंट सोल्यूशन रहेगा। अदरवाइज 5 साल बाद हम देखेंगे, अभी अगर 1 लाख वेयर हाउस है, 2 लाख वेयर हाउस बन चुके होंगे और प्रॉब्लम वहीं की वहीं रहेगी। वो सब वेयर हाउसेस बनेंगे, खड़े रहेंगे, उसमें एक दाना भी नहीं आएगा और वाइबल ही नहीं होंगे। तो इस प्रॉब्लम से हमें अपने आप को बचाना है, क्योंकि बहुत बड़ा पैसा इन्वेस्ट करने की हम बात कर रहे हैं।
थैंक यू। ये आपने एक और पहलू पॉइंट आउट किया कि एक तरह से एक क्रिटिकल मास बनने का एक प्रोस्पेक्ट है, हम बना सकते हैं, लेकिन इस चीज़ को हम सिर्फ ग्रोथ के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से नहीं देख सकते, ओवरऑल सिस्टम एफिशिएंसी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखना चाहिए। थैंक यू। आई मूव ऑन टू मिस्टर जयंत चौधरी ऑफ चौधरी वेयरहाउस। जयंत जी, अभी जैसे संजय जी ने पॉइंट आउट किया और काफ़ी सारे हमारे पहले भी स्पीकर्स ने इंसेंटिव वगैरह की बात करी, संजय जी कह रहे हैं कि फार्मर्स नहीं है, ट्रेडर्स ने स्टोर किया हुआ है। आपके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से फार्मर्स को हम कैसे इसमें ज़्यादा एक्टिव बना सकते हैं इस ओवरऑल सिस्टम में? आपका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू क्या है? चौधरी वेयरहाउस का एक्सपीरियंस क्या है इस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से?
My experience, the last 20 years experience is like traders warehousing को rule कर रहे हैं। Warehousing basically farmers के लिए ही था, शुरू वहाँ से ही हुआ था, लेकिन farmers उस पर capitalize नहीं कर पा रहे। लेकिन farmers की भी अगर हम बात करेंगे तो हमको ग्राउंड लेवल रियलिटीज को समझना पड़ेगा। फार्मर्स मेरे हिसाब से 3 कैटेगरीज के, स्मॉल फार्मर्स विच आर हैविंग लैंड होल्डिंग से अप टू 20 acres of land. More than that, 20 to 60 acres is like medium kind of farmer, and 100 acres and above are large farmers. जो छोटा फार्मर है वो किस तरीके से ऑपरेट करता है, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड दैट फर्स्ट। छोटा फार्मर अपनी जमीन हाथ बटाई पे देता है, वो खुद सोइंग शायद ना भी करता हो बिकॉज ही इज इनटू अ जॉब, ही इज डूइंग सम अदर वर्क्स, और खुद भी करता हो तो उसकी क्रॉप की जो यील्ड है वो इतनी लिमिटेड है कि उस से एक 20 बीघा जमीन विल अप्रोच द वेयर हाउसेस। सो हमारा जो सेगमेंट है वो रह गया जो बीच वाला फार्मर है, बिकॉज उसकी जो क्रॉप है वो तकरीबन हम मानते हैं कि 400 से 500 क्विंटल है, वो कुछ 100 क्विंटल शायद पहले बेचेगा, बाकी की चीजों को रिटेन करेगा, विल ट्राई टू ऑब्जर्व द मार्केट एंड सेल एज एंड व्हेन रिक्वायर्ड। तो हमारा जो एज अ WSP मैं जो देखता हूं, दैट फॉर मी ही इज द टारगेट, नॉट इवन द स्मॉल वन, नॉट द लार्जर वन। अब वहां पर हमको ये देखना है चैलेंजेस क्या है। अब बैंकर्स के लिए बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है, और वेयर हाउसिंग को जो हम समझते हैं तो हमारा एक वेयर हाउसिंग का मोटो है जो हम अपने वेयर हाउस के लिए रखते हैं, लाइक विच इज लाइक सेफ्टी, ऑनेस्टी एंड फाइनेंस। सो सेफ्टी ऑफ गुड्स, honesty to the customer that you keep the goods intact, and major is finance. Finance is the backbone of warehousing. अब bankers के लिए challenge क्या है? The first thing that the farmers comes to your bank, they have to see what is the land holding does he have. So according to the land holding, say 50 बीघा, you will multiply by 5 because there is a platform where it is like you have a yield kind of thing, that इतने एकड़ में इतना yield है। तो suppose उसका 250 से 300 क्विंटल सरसों बनता है, तो बैंकर्स पहली चीज क्या करेंगे कि राइट, so this is your land holding multiplied by so many quintals, so this is the amount of mustard, wheat or whatever local crop that we can finance. He should agree to this. What he is doing is, मैं आपको बिल्कुल ग्राउंड लेवल रियलिटीज बता रहा हूं। वो किसान जो है उसकी जो क्रॉप है वो तो है ही, वो ये चाहता है कि उसके जो गांव में और भी क्रॉप्स होती है वो उसको भी एक्यूमुलेट करता है, जो छोटे हैं कुछ और हैं। ही ट्राइज टू स्टोर इन कि मेरे को यार मुझे 500 भरना है, तो पहली बैंक ने एक रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगाया लैंड होल्डिंग,
Now second, how many number of people are there on that ऋण पुस्तिका? जो खसरा खतौनी है, उसमें होता है हमारे यहाँ ट्रेडिशनल बिजनेस है, मतलब ट्रेडिशनल हमारा जो देश है ट्रेडिशनल फॉर्मेट में चलता है, दद्दू का भी नाम है, पिताजी का भी नाम है, बच्चों का भी नाम है. Now if there are 5 names in it, the banker needs NOC from all those 5 people. He cannot finance on one person. अब हो सकता है there is somebody who is sold enough that he cannot come to the bank. Bankers के लिए फिर एक चैलेंज है. फार्मर फाइनेंस की बात कर रहा हूँ. ट्रेडर्स क्यों आगे जा रहे हैं, फार्मर क्यों पिछड़ रहा है, हम वहां बात कर रहे हैं. अब फार्मर फाइनेंस के लिए 5 लोगों के एनओसी चाहिए, 5 लोगों के कंसेंट चाहिए दैट हाँ एक पर्टिकुलर आपके इसमें 5 लोग हैं, एक के नाम से हम फाइनेंस करें. तो ये एक चैलेंज हो गया.
There are, the state warehousing corporations working with private players and who are managing the services. In fact, a lot of other states are also kind of thinking about it. CWC, we were discussing that might be also looking at, outsourcing and getting in the private partnership in. But like, many of the participants and panelists have already said, we do not see a dearth of warehousing there. Capacity is available, and capacity is available mostly in the right places. What I would want to highlight, in addition to whatever questions and the point that been raised by Sanjay ji and my namesake sir Jayan ji, is what we are trying to address here is the farmer at large. Am I correct if I am getting the context correct in terms of digitizing and helping the farmer to stock that? And what Priya mentioned in terms of fund, the guarantee fund, is it specific to farmer or is it an open fund?
No, actually, it is farmers are given a less guarantee fee.
No, I was just saying, you said that.
It's for all.
It's for all.
Non-farmers and farmers.
Okay.
But the farmers, the benefit will be, the guarantee fee will be only 0.4, whereas it will be 1%.
Non-farmer. So, my point to this is essentially the goal from a government perspective also, and don't mind me criticizing it, is to enhance the income of the farmer, ensure that they do not do distress sale, but all the while we are incentivizing the non-farmers only to benefit from the system. See, today it's not that the traders, processors, millers are 95% of my customers, your customers, everybody's customers. Who's not benefiting is the farmer. When you are trying to design a scheme or a PPP or incentivize for the end producer who's actually producing, he's not going to consume. But the problem that I would want to pose the panel is, if he has to stock and if he has to keep in my warehouse or any warehouse across the country, why should he do that? What are we doing from the government or from, as stakeholder industry stakeholders, saying that, say for example today, soybean is going to come in 15 days, right? And the prices are much below MSP. Are we kind of designing a future contract, like can Mr. Raste say that designing a future contract which enables a farmer saying that I will get at least an MSP. Today it's like 4,200, 4,400 rupees, and MSP is much above that. Are we as a group, as stakeholders, working towards giving him that kind of a comfort, saying that tomorrow you come, you stock it in any of our warehouses, I will give you an ENWR, right? And I'm assuring you, or giving you some kind of a insight, saying that you stock it for 3 months or 4 months, and you get that desired price. So, I think we need to, as a group, as a collective, tackle the problem from that perspective. I would like to be very, candid about this, is incentivizing the non-farm is much above that. Are we as a group, as stakeholders, working towards giving him that kind of a comfort, saying that tomorrow you come, you stock it in any of our warehouses? I think we need to, as a group, as a collective, tackle the problem from that perspective. I would like to be very, candid about this, is incentivizing the non-farmer community is only going to increase stocking and holding of commodity and not improve farm income.
Okay. Thank you very much, because in some fundamental sense you're saying that we are ending up alienating the very beneficiary who we are trying to serve.
She clarified.
That's a serious, it's like a market failure. I want to very quickly open this to the rest of the panel. If any of you have some reflections on what your fellow panelists have said. Saurabh, please.
So, मेरे हिसाब से दोनों giants have given quite a briefing as to how the entire system चल रहा है आज की डेट में और चौधरी साहब का कहना बिल्कुल सही है कि और चूंकि मैं 27 साल बैंकर रहा हूँ तो मुझे मालूम है कि फार्मर फाइनेंसिंग में क्या दिक्कत आती है और जो इश्यूज फार्मर को अगर फाइनेंस नहीं हो पा रहा है टाइमली और उसको चाहिए कि ये जैसे लोन अगेंस्ट सिक्योरिटी अगर 30 मिनट में हो जाता है और फार्मर फाइनेंसिंग 30 दिन में होती है तो कौन नुकसान झेलेगा उस चीज़ का और क्या उसको मालूम है अगर उसको इतना प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी होती कि मैं 30 दिन भी वेट कर लूँ बट मेरे को पैसा अच्छा मिलेगा मेरे माल का तो वो 30 दिन भी वेट कर लेगा बट सबसे बड़ा गैम्बल जो इस पूरी इंडिया में जो लेता है वो फार्मर है ही टेक्स द पंट तो अगर उसको पंट लेना है तो वो फार्मर जो लोअर कैटेगरी का फार्मर है वो नहीं रुक सकता एक और चीज़ है जो गवर्नमेंट की चल रही है विच इज़ द लार्जेस्ट ग्रेन स्टोरेज का है और उसमें जैसे संजय जी ने कहा कि नंबर ऑफ वेयर हाउसेज तो बन जाएंगे ठीक है और वो पैक्स बनाएगा या एफपीओ बनाएगा जहाँ भी बनाएगा बट उसको चलाएगा कौन बिकॉज दे डू नॉट हैव दी वेयर रिसॉल्व कि वो उसको चला सके या तो वो एक एक्सटेंशन आर्म बनना चाहिए एसडब्ल्यूसी का या सीडब्ल्यूसी का या कोई प्राइवेट पार्टी उसको चलाए नहीं तो ये सब गोडाउन्स बन जाएंगे और खंडर बन जाएंगे कुछ टाइम के बाद और ये बड़ा परियोजना है $15 बिलियन इज व्हाट दे से कि टोटल जो है विच इज ह्यूज इंटेंशंस अच्छे हैं बट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो हमने 11 ही शुरू किए थे जब मैं गया फील्ड पे और मैंने उन लोकेशंस को देखा वहाँ कोई अनाज नहीं है और फैक्ट्स कह रहे हैं कि हमने लोन लिया है और हमने लोन लिया है तो मैं ब्याज कहाँ से भरूँ इन सब लोन का जिसपे कि हमें वायदा किया गया था कि हमसे अनाज यहाँ रखवाया जाएगा और कोई ना कोई हमसे आउटपुट लेगा तो इश्यूज मल्टीपल हैं द ओनली थिंग इज कि अगर इस तरह के फोरम्स और स्ट्रक्चर्स ज़्यादा टाइम मिले आपस में बात करें और सोल्यूशन निकालें देन आई थिंक इट इज अपॉर्चुनिटी तो बढ़ावा दिया जा सकता है
थैंक यू सौरभ जी यस प्लीज अनदर पॉइंट आई वांट टू हाईलाइट कर्सरी रीडिंग जो रिपोर्ट का मैं देख रहा था और जो गजेंद्र जी ने कहा कि we've been there in the industry for now 18 years NCML has been there much before Sarek 2004 right we have 18 years when I say we have the right to vote as well hence that element in that entire report which I on the sidelines also spoke to Professor saying that element of expertise of collateral managers us as stakeholders have been completely excluded. See, today I manage more than 4 million metric ton of space, right? NCML and the entire private players put together will manage more than a metric ton में 10 million metric ton, at least that. The key reason why people do not want to move into that ecosystem, I think Rasteji already spoke very clearly in terms of the delays of WDR. The another important point which maybe nobody is talking of is that what benefit does it give me? See, there is a WIP-FM in everything. What is it in for me? Right? Now, Madhya Pradesh, if you go and in the soybean season, 65 रुपए का रेट होगा सर स्टोरेज का 65 से 75 विंटर नहीं पर एमटी मेट्रिक टन 6 रुपए हो गए आपके 6.5 7 रुपए 7 रुपए 7 रुपए is a wafer thin margin that warehousing is operating on, right? 7 रुपए बचेगा क्या? Hardly 1 रुपए 2 रुपए, right? Now when I go to the same customer, say a processor, let's leave the farmer out of the picture. I go to a processor and I say sir ये मैंने ना WDR इसका एग्रीगेट करा दिया है और आपका इसमें मैं आपको NWR इशू करूंगा मुझे अब इसके 80 रुपए चाहिए वो कहेगा भाई एक काम कीजिए आपका दुकान बंद कीजिए मैं किसी और से करा लूंगा so that benefit which so far should accrue in terms of see I'm very happy when I do business with NCDX I love it I absolutely love it because वहाँ पे मुझे प्रीमियम मिलता है एंड उस प्रीमियम के लिए वो क्वालिटी ऑफ वेयरहाउसिंग भी होती है और सर्विस भी है व्हिच इज अक्रॉस बिकॉज आई एम प्रोफेशनली मैनेज warehouse service provider. However, in the non-exchange driven business, there is no distinction, there is no premium that either a bank will pay or the customer will pay. At the end of the day, for me, customer is the king. That is number one. Number two, in the presentations of the thing that I saw, there is a very dangerous provision that they have given, saying that mobile app पे registration of warehouse service provider. And यहाँ पे कुछ FPO भाई भी है, तो मैं ये समझाना चाहता हूँ. As a theoretical, it has happened. I have 3-4 cases which have happened. Is समझ लीजिए किसी ने मोबाइल पे रजिस्टर कर लिया WDR web इस पे, there is no inspection which is happening, right? आपको कितना देना है? 20-25 हज़ार रुपए रजिस्ट्रेशन के देना है. आपने 5,000 टन का वेयरहाउस कर लिया रजिस्टर, ठीक है. अब इन्होंने एज पर द न्यू गजेट वो फी भी कम कर दिया है, 1% कर दिया है. तो आप 5,000 टन के वेयरहाउस में 15 करोड़ का माल रख सकते हैं, राइट? आपने AIF से वो फंड लिया था, 2 करोड़ की फंडिंग थी, आपका खुद का घर का पैसा सिर्फ 20% लगा है, तो उसके सिर्फ लगे हैं 40 लाख रुपए. FD और BG वो सब मिला के उनको 10 लाख रुपए और लगे हैं. 50 लाख रुपए के सामने 15 करोड़ का माल पड़ा है. अब आप ये समझ लीजिए कि हमने उस वेयरहाउस ओनर की, देखिए बहुत प्रोफेशनल वेयरहाउस मैनेजर जैसे चौधरी जी है और कुछ हमारे कलीग्स हैं साथ में, है ऐसे नहीं है, बट ऐसे बहुत सारे अनस्क्रूपुलस एलिमेंट है इंडस्ट्री में. आपने 50 लाख लगा लिया, आपके पास 15 करोड़ का माल है, आपने 2 महीने तक तो अच्छी रसीद काट दी और तीसरे महीने आप चपत हो गए. अब एज अ टैक्स होल्डर ऑल्सो एंड एज गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो मेरा सवाल है कि मैं ऐसे लोगों के लिए फंड से पैसा क्यों निकाल दूं? ये पहली बात. दूसरा सवाल है, बैंक को उसमें क्या कंफर्ट आएगा जब उसमें कोई ड्यू डिलिजेंस, कोई आपका विजिट, कोई स्क्रूटिनी है नहीं. नंबर 3, डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन या जो मैकेनिज्म है वो कहाँ है? So these are the questions that I thought we need to discuss, develop, include us who have been in the industry for a long time as stakeholders, and work towards digitizing the entire process.
Thank you. That's precisely the purpose of this roundtable. Any other reflections? We start, and then we'll do a quick round of.
I completely agree with what Jain sir said. ये चीज एज अ WSP मैं भी महसूस करता हूँ कि by giving some 3% of security, which now is 1, and nothing is there with the bank, only the ENWR. Now here there is something which the WDRA should take care, which I have always conveyed, that like there are quarterly inspections which are done by the WDRA auditors. Now they take a sheet from you where they ask which are the banks who are financing those ENWR. So we are submitting those signed sheets to them. WDRA should send a communication to that particular bank that yes, this was a quarterly inspection done by our auditor so and so. We inspected all the goods are in good condition and quality, quantity, everything has been verified, and that signed thing should go to the bank every quarter from WDRA to give. This is how a banker will gain confidence that yes, somebody is there, somebody is doing a check, and I am getting a signed letter and certificate that this warehouse has been duly checked in all respects and manners, and WDRA has communicated this to us. The thing is now WDRA is asking for a 1% security. It is very, very strange. 1% of security is what Jain sir said. I mean, I'm saying, why should you take that also? Take a personal guarantee of the concerned WSP and make him like बोलते ना हम भान दो किसी को. WSP को इतने सारे पेपर साइन करा लो कि he would think 10 times before doing anything wrong. And no trader has the capability of doing anything wrong. My 20 years of experience in warehousing, nobody can do any fraud in the warehouse. No banker, no trader. It is only the WSP which does it.
because he is the in charge of the whole thing. He is the captain of that ship. So anything goes wrong in a warehouse, it is first the warehouse owner who is involved. Without he being involved, nothing can happen. Nobody can even dare to do anything.
Right.
So instead of taking that 1% security, WDRA should get so many papers signed by the WSP that he should think 10 times that I can go wrong, because I would be finished.
Right.
Which the WDRA is not doing. I mean, strange 1% security.
So tolerance level.
Why do you take that? And with it, they are not even taking the net worth of the. Now, how are they assessing a net worth? They are asking us to upload our audit reports. They are asking us to upload. Net worth is something which is a person holds how much property do you have, how many assets do you have. It should be certified by the valuer. As bankers provide loan, they have two kind of things. One thing जिसको हम बोलते हैं कि जो वकील करता है, which is like verifications of the property, and the other thing is like valuation, search report and valuation. Why can WDRA not do the same thing? आज तक bankers trader की सिबिल निकालते हैं, आज तक WSP की सिबिल किसी ने नहीं निकाली, which is the most important thing.
It seems to be also a capacity constraint. WDRA is
capacity constraint
seems to have.
I think we are deviating from the topic actually. So there are so much of criticism of WDRA. Let's talk
No,
about
it's not about criticism. It's not about criticism. It is for giving the comfort zone to the bankers, because I said right in the beginning, why this ENWR is not progressive. Because bankers are not confident.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely.
So I have just said what WDRA could do to make the bankers more confident.
So these are intangibles, but they are most important.
And whatever I am saying is against me.
No, of course.
I am not saying anything for me. I am saying everything against for me. I mean, I am against me. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing in my favor.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Aparna ji, you wanted to come.
मैं कुछ बोलना चाहूँगी in the sense जो मैंने देखा है पीछे में.
Just hold the mic.
Yeah. I would like to talk about रायचूर and बेल्लारी बेल्ट जो है जहाँ तुंगभद्रा डैम का पानी आता है. वहाँ पैडी का फसल बहुत अच्छा होता है. And what I'm talking about is some 5-6 years back. So at that time, small rural godowns are there. वो ग्रामीण भंडारण योजना जो पहले वाला before this agri marketing infrastructure scheme. So through that ग्रामीण भंडारण योजना, small godowns have been constructed in that Raichur Bellary belt. And what good thing I have observed there is farmers were able to store, the real farmers, I'm not talking about traders, real farmers were able to store their produce there, and because of that, continuously for 3-4 years, there was no reduction in rice, means paddy price. So that is what needs to happen with the help of this small godown. So during the discussion we हम लोग बोल रहे थे कि बड़े गोडाउन चाहिए, छोटे गोडाउन, how they will survive. So yes, it is difficult. It is difficult because it may not be possible everywhere. And to this world's largest godown plan also, plenty of godowns are being built. As of now, 11 are completed. There in plan another 500, then another like 3,500. So it is in various phases. So, but yes, it's need in the rural space. Even the small godowns will be beneficial for the farmer in the long run, provided, but the farmer may not be in a position to manage that godown.
Plus transportation is a
concern. So in that case, whether some kind of a hub and spoke model can be thought of at, let us say, taluk level, some godowns, district level, bigger godowns. So if that can be thought of, Also, in addition to that, whether FPOs can be strengthened enough so that they'll be in a position to manage those go downs.
Right.
Anyway, packs are there, like we are thinking of involving packs in the process, whether FPOs also can be involved.
Thank you for adding those points. I'm afraid we are actually out of time.
But I
Kaveri,
think
can we take some questions from
take
the
some
audience?
questions from
Can we
the-
take 2 questions from the
No,
audience?
we have 4 FPOs, so if...
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have...
If they could just...
So we have 4 FPOs in the audience and please आप अपना प्रश्न अगर स्पेसिफिकली अगर किसी व्यक्ति के लिए प्रश्न पूछना चाहें तो वो आप
ये लीजिए।
हमें बताइए।
अपना नाम और कहाँ से?
मेरा नाम राजा राम लिखा है, गंगानगर प्रोग्रेसिव फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी है हमारी। कंपनी है गंगानगर, राजस्थान से हूँ मैं। पहला प्रश्न तो मेरा ये है भी ये जो WDRA है ना, और हमारे राजस्थान में जो RSWC जो चल रहा है, RSWC का ये हो गया है कि उसने कोई प्राइवेट कोई SSL है, एक कंपनी और एक और कंपनी है, उनका इतना बड़ा इशू रहता है कि उन्होंने क्या वो बीमा नहीं करवाया, पीछे 150 करोड़ रुपए पता नहीं उनका रह गया था। तो मैंने क्या किया जी, मैंने बात की, मैंने माल लगा दिया वहाँ पे। जैसे माल लगा तो उनका बीमा खत्म हो गया। अब हमने हमारा क्या जी ग्रुप है, अब फंडिंग पैसा FPO के पास कोई पैसा पता नहीं है, हमने तो ग्रुप से इकट्ठा करके वहाँ लगाया और जैसे ही लगाया ये फंड के लिए हम गए इसके पास NDRL, तो वो कहने जिनका तो बीमा ही खत्म हो गया। अब हमारे तो भाव की बन गई, वी आर फार्मर्स का कितना बड़ा माल रख लिया और ये कर रहा है। हमने भागा दौड़े की, मतलब जयपुर तक गए, ऑफिस तक गए, वहाँ कोई है ही नहीं, कोई जवाबदेही नहीं है। फिर हम इनकी तरफ गए स्टार एग्री के पास, तो स्टार एग्री में एक दिक्कत, बहुत बढ़िया सर्विस थी, उनकी इंटरेस्ट रेट अधिक है, उनका किराया अधिक है, इनका इंटरेस्ट रेट अधिक 2-3%। तो वो इसमें क्या कि ये बहुत सी चीज़ें को चेंज करने की जरूरत है। और खास करके, और मैं WDRA से भी कहना चाहूँगा कि जो राजस्थान स्टेट वेयर हाउस कॉर्पोरेशन है उसको नेगेटिव मार्किंग क्यों नहीं की गई आज तक, तो उसको बंद कर देना चाहिए। वो इतना परेशान कर रहे हैं। अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, हमारा सीड का काम है, तो मैं वहाँ से सीड को उठा के और उसको साफ करके, ठीक है, वो सीड बना के और फिर दोबारा मैं उसी में लगाने का मन है। अब जैसे दोबारा लगाने के मन में आए तो वो कह रहे अब फिर बीमा खत्म हो गया हमारा, तो अब हमारे पास मत लगो, स्टार वर्ल्ड के पास गए, इनसे लगा के और दोबारा फंडिंग करवा रहे, अभी चालू है। ठीक है, थैंक यू।
Yes, any response on that, on the Rajasthan warehousing?
I'll give a response.
Point noted.
तो point noted है और ये इनका कहना भी सही था, क्योंकि उन्होंने 2 प्राइवेट पार्टीज को RSWC ने आउटसोर्स किया हुआ था और वो जो इंश्योरेंस का जो प्रीमियम था वो उन दोनों पार्टीज को जमा करना था, RSWC खुद नहीं जमा करता था। और चूंकि उनकी फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ या तो ठीक नहीं थी तो इस कारण से वो डिले हुआ था। बट ये पॉइंट नोटेड है सर, ये आपका कहना सही है कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए था।
शैलेंद्र जी।
No, just 1 second.
अच्छा, sorry.
Really, what just...
Vishal Shukla.
So just want to add, we are in the process of Act amendment actually. We are having stringent modulations on the various stakeholders in the system. Because currently, as we want to build an ecosystem where many people will come forward for registration, so it will be an inhibiting factor. So that's why there is more stringent, as Sana was also rightly pointing out, that this has to be. So currently, the ecosystem we want to build it in a support system where they come on board. So, but we are coming up with a very big thing, that is the Act amendment, as Siddharth sir were also pointing out on that. So that will in fact say a mandatory registration of all warehouses also is coming under the Act. So we are also on the process of system improvement to gain that. So in that it would be addressed, so that where we will have the each stakeholders and the stringent modulations where what the warehouse service provider and if he is contradicting, so what will be the provisions and for this. So the entire chapter of the Act in that particular thing is revamped. So that would address.
Thank you. Thank you.
मैं विशाल शुक्ला, सतपुड़ा जीवी प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी, खंडवा मध्य प्रदेश से। काफ़ी अच्छी डिबेट रही, काफ़ी अच्छा प्रोग्राम रहा। सिराज जी ने भी काफ़ी अच्छी बातें उठाई। इसमें सब 2-3 चीज़ों को हमने नोट आउट किया। हमने NERL के साथ भी काम किया, NCDX के साथ भी काम किया, CWC के साथ भी काम किया, मतलब काफ़ी स्टेक होल्डर्स जो यहाँ पे हैं उनके साथ हमने काम किया, बैंक के साथ भी काम किया। काम करने के बाद में जो हमको समझ में आया कि जैसे सर ने अभी उठाया था, संजय जी ने एक पॉइंट उठाया कि 99% ट्रेडर्स हैं, फार्मर्स क्यों नहीं है? इसके लिए एक इकोसिस्टम की जरूरत है। जब तक पूरा इकोसिस्टम मिलके काम नहीं करेगा तब तक अलग अलग तो कभी भी ना FPOs आगे बढ़ पाएंगे ना फार्मर्स आगे बढ़ पाएंगे। दूसरा एक जैन जी ने जो एक सवाल उठाया कि भाई 3 कैटेगरीज हैं फार्मर की। छोटे छोटे फार्मर या मिड कैप फार्मर के लिए FPOs है, वो एग्रीगेटर हैं फार्मर्स के। अगर उनको जितना ज़्यादा एक्सटेंशन की जरूरत होगी, एक्सटेंशन किया जाएगा, उतना जल्दी हम चीज़ों को एग्रीगेट कर पाएंगे और चीज़ों को आगे भी बढ़ा पाएंगे। ये तो मतलब जो हमारी आपस में बात हुई, जो हम लोगों ने चैलेंजेस फेस किए। अभी क्या होता है, फार्मर जैसे हम लोग अपना खुद का स्टॉक लेके गए थ्रू NERL, NCDX में हमने NCDX के कारण हम लोग वहाँ रजिस्टर्ड हुए, और CWC में हमने अपना वेयर हाउसिंग किया। वेयर हाउसिंग करने के लिए जब फार्मर्स को बुलाया, लगभग 500 टन के आसपास हमने स्टॉक बुलाया, लेकिन आप बिलीव करेंगे सिर्फ 44 कुंटल स्टॉक हम कर पाए। वहाँ लाने के बाद उसको हमको तुरंत APMC में ले जाके सेल करना पड़ा। सो मैनी चैलेंजेस। CWC बोलते के जो मैनेजर हैं वो बोलते हैं कि जो क्वालिटी पैरामीटर है, 2 क्वालिटी पैरामीटर्स को अप्रूव किया था, एक कोई मानेंगे दूसरे को मानेंगे नहीं। अब हमने तो अपने फार्मर्स को पूरा ट्रेनिंग दिया जाके कि भाई ये 2 तरीके का माल लेके आइए। अब दूसरा पूरा स्टॉक हमारा हो गया। तो ये तीसरा, जब फिर वहाँ से निकल के हम गए बैंक बोलता है, बोले साहब यहाँ पे ये वाला सिस्टम नहीं चलेगा, अभी तो आप वापस से फिजिकल जो रिसिप्ट वाला सिस्टम हम एक्सेप्ट ही नहीं करेंगे। बड़ी मुश्किल से NERL के मैनेजर्स वहाँ आए, खंडवा आए, उन्होंने सब कन्विंस करने के बाद भी वो पूरा सिस्टम हम एग्रीगेट मतलब सर्विस ले ही नहीं पाए। स्टॉक किया, बट वो बैंक यूनियन बैंक ने हमको डायरेक्ट फंडिंग किया और करके जो भी उनका सिस्टम था उससे लेके गए। तो ये जो मुझे समझ में आया पूरे सिस्टम में काम करने के बाद, वो ये समझ में आया कि ग्राउंड लेवल पे जिस तरीके के यहाँ पे एक स्टेक होल्डर्स का ट्रेनिंग हो रहा है या कम्युनिकेशन हो रहा है, इस तरीके का डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे होना बहुत जरूरी है। जब तक डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे जाके वहाँ पे FPOs हैं, बैंकर्स हैं, CWC है, NERL है, जब ये लोग जब तक वहाँ पे जाके FPOs के साथ मीटिंग नहीं करेंगे, फार्मर्स के साथ मीटिंग नहीं करेंगे, तब तक ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं है कि सब लोग मिलके इसको कर पाएँ। तो मेरा तो बस यही निवेदन है, आप सब लोग बड़े बड़े लोग बैठे हैं यहाँ पे और अच्छी पोजीशन पे हैं, अगर इस तरीके से कुछ एग्जीक्यूट करा पाएँ तो उससे बेहतर कुछ नहीं हो सकता। फार्मर्स है, छोटा फार्मर भी अपने घरों में हमने देखा है 10-10 कुंटल सोयाबीन रखता है, कुछ 10 कुंटल सोयाबीन को बैंक पे ले जाके रख सकता है थ्रू FPO, लेकिन वो रखेगा क्यों नहीं? क्योंकि उसके पास में लैक ऑफ नॉलेज, लैक ऑफ फैसिलिटी है, तो वो उसको लेने में उतना परेशान हो जाएगा कि बोले ये घर में अच्छा है। तो जो भी हम यहाँ कर रहे हैं उसको करना चाहिए।
सर, आई डोंट एग्री विद व्हाट यू से। मेरे हिसाब से जो वेयर हाउस मैन होता है वो बहुत बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट और बहुत बड़ी बीच की कड़ी है। वो he is grooming everybody, right from the farmer to the trader, and he is acting like a buffer between the depositor and the bank. तो बैंक को FPO से जाना है या बैंक को पर्टिकुलर जाना है, ये चीज़ के अलावा मैंने जो अपना पर्टिकुलर 20 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है वो ये देखा है दैट हम सारा बैंक अपने वेयर हाउस पे बैठ के चलाते हैं। इन सेंस वी आर मेकिंग द कंप्लीट डॉक्यूमेंट्स एज द बैंक्स वांट। बैंकर्स को क्या क्या चाहिए? ऑडिट रिपोर्ट्स, KYCs, ITRs, computations, like various ratios, जैसे गजेंद्र सर would know, like assets to liability, gearing ratios, everything। हम सारी चीज़ों को मॉनिटर करते हैं, सारी चीज़ों को पेपर को अलाइन करते हैं, पूरा एक बंच बनाते हैं। फार्मर होगा तो फार्मर की लैंड होल्डिंग देखेंगे, उसके एफिडेविट्स बनवाएंगे, उसकी सारी चीज करेंगे, सारा काम वहीं करते हैं वेयर हाउस पे बैठ के। देन वी सेंड दैट फाइल टू द बैंक। बैंक इज नॉट इवन अवेयर ऑफ व्हाट थिंग इज कमिंग। हम बैंकर्स के साथ बात करते हैं, अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं कि उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है। जब हमको सारी रिक्वायरमेंट उनकी पता चलती है, फिर हम कस्टमर की रिक्वायरमेंट समझते हैं, फिर हम उनको उसी हिसाब से ग्रूम करके उनकी फाइल्स बैंक में पुट अप करते हैं। क्योंकि फार्मर है, जैसा आपने बोला, वो नहीं कर पाएगा बैंक के साथ बात और नहीं ले पाएगा फाइनेंस, तो वहां पर किसी न किसी को बीच में आना पड़ेगा जो इस इकोसिस्टम को इम्प्रूव करना चाहता है, जो ये चाहता है दैट कि ये चीज सक्सेसफुल हो, ये मॉडल चले। तो यहाँ WSP प्लेज द वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल। उस आपको कायदे से होना ही चाहिए। आप वेयर हाउस चूज करो, मुझे इस वेयर हाउस में माल रखना है, उस वेयर हाउस ओनर को आपकी सारी फैसिलिटीज प्रोवाइड करनी चाहिए, देन इट इज वेयर हाउसिंग। वेयर हाउसिंग इज नॉट कि लाया माल रख दिया, लेकर भाड़ा ले लिया। इट इज नॉट अबाउट दैट, इट्स अबाउट अ कंप्लीट पैकेज। सर ने अभी बोला क्वालिटी वेयर हाउसिंग, व्हेन ही वाज स्टेटिंग हियर, क्वालिटी वेयर हाउसिंग, किसका ध्यान है क्वालिटी वेयर हाउसिंग? किसी का नहीं। सब ने उसको गोदाम बना रखा है, साइंटिफिक स्टोरेज नहीं है। और उसके अलावा हाउसकीपिंग क्या है? बैंकर्स हैं, उनको कॉन्फिडेंस कैसे आता है? आपने डिपॉजिटर लेजर बनाया, आपने रोज का आवक जावक का रजिस्टर बनाया, डेली डायरी जिसको बोलते हैं, आपने स्टॉक रजिस्टर्स, डिपॉजिटर लेजर्स, सारी चीजें हैं। बैंक्स के साथ मंथली रिकंसिलिएशन ऑफ ऑल द ENWRs, आपका माल। आई वुड हियर सजेस्ट वन मोर थिंग, बिकॉज एज द टाइम इज लेस, मैं तो काफी सारे नोट्स बना के लेके आया था दैट आई वांट टू स्पीक माय हार्ट आउट, which I can speak for some other more time. नहीं, but here NERL से बस मेरा एक ही है, I'm thankful to the complete NERL team to, like, I'm honored that I'm here today. But मेरा सिर्फ एक suggestion है, which कि हमें जो हमने ENWR पंच करते हैं जैसे सिस्टम में, उसकी जगह हमें एक चीज नई इंट्रोड्यूस करनी चाहिए कि वेयर हाउस जो मैन है उसको रोज अपनी आवक जावक पंच करनी चाहिए कि रिसिट्स क्या आए, क्या गए, एंड देयर शुड बी समथिंग ऑन इन दिस सॉफ्टवेयर कि पूरा वेयर हाउस में रोज जो माल आ रहा है वो पंच हो रहा है, जो जा रहा है वो पंच हो रहा है। वेयर हाउस में उसको कर रहा है, ENWR उसके अगेंस्ट में रेस कर रहा है, सॉफ्टवेयर उस हिसाब से डेवलप होना चाहिए। और बैंकर्स जो भी उनके कंसर्न्ड बैंकर्स हैं जो उस वेयर हाउस को फाइनेंस करते हैं, उनको व्यू की फैसिलिटी होनी चाहिए उस पर्टिकुलर वेयर हाउस ओनर के, WSP के, जिससे बैंकर अपने टेबल पर बैठ के ये व्यू कर सके। ही कैन नॉट डू एनीथिंग इन इट, ही इज जस्ट व्यूइंग इट। जैसे हम नेट बैंकिंग लेते हैं ना, व्यू ओनली, सो दैट वे दैट ही इज व्यूइंग इट कि इस वेयर हाउस में चल क्या रहा है, आया क्या, गया क्या, इज इट मैचिंग, ये कुछ क्लैरिटी नहीं है, सिर्फ ENWR है। तो ये सारी चीजों को अपडेट करना है। क्वालिटी वेयर हाउसिंग में ये भी आता है।
डिजिटलाइजेशन सर, एक अच्छी बात आपने बताई, इसमें एक पॉइंट और मैं लेके आऊंगा, जैसे इजी फाइनेंस बहुत जरूरी है एज अ फार्मर। केस अभी थोड़ी देर पहले किसी ने एक पॉइंट को उठाया था कि एक फार्मर जब उसको KCC मिला हुआ है, तो KCC से जब उसने प्रोड्यूस पैदा कर लिया और जब हाँ आपने उठाया, जब उसको वेयर हाउस में लेके जाते हैं तो उससे लिंक करते हैं, जबकि दोनों डिफरेंट थिंग है।
सर वो क्यों करते हैं? सर हम ये चाहते हैं, बैंकर देखिए, मैं क्योंकि मुझे ये मालूम है भाई वेयर हाउस चलाना है ना, तो ये माँ बाप है हमारे, क्योंकि दे आर द मोस्ट क्रूशियल एस्पेक्ट ऑफ वेयर हाउसिंग। अभी कैसा है सर कि बैंक ने क्यों KCC से लिंक किया? क्योंकि एक कहीं कुछ गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम है, वो स्कीम कुछ इस तरह से है कि ENWR का लोन 8.80% पे अवेलेबल है। सपोज KCC 7 है, तो आपका लोन 8.8 की जगह 7% से फाइनेंस हो, because your KCC existing is at 7%.
बट मैं जो कहना चाह
रहा हूँ, तो इंटरेस्ट कम हो जाएगा, सबवेंशन आएगा उसमें।
इंटरेस्ट की नहीं है सर, जैसे आया एक
दो और
नहीं, but let him complete, ma'am, please, let him complete.
दो और को बोलना।
एक मिनट तो दे दीजिए। जो क्वेश्चन है वो ये है कि जैसे प्रोड्यूस आया, जी वेयर हाउस पे चला गया। अब फार्मर की दो रिक्वायरमेंट है, एक तो उसको खेती करना है, दूसरा उसने जो प्रोड्यूस कर लिया है उसके लिए उसको प्राइस चाहिए। अगर वो केसीसी से उसको लिंक कर दिया जाता है तो आगे क्या प्रॉब्लम होता है उसके पास में, केसीसी के लिए तो अलग से पैसा चाहिए ना, क्योंकि उसको दोबारा से कल्टीवेशन करना है। तो इसके लिए जैसे 2 टाइप कार्ड, जैसे केसीसी कार्ड बना रहे हैं ना, उसी तरीके से उसका वेयर हाउसिंग कार्ड होना चाहिए हर फार्मर के पास, चाहे वो एफपीओ के साथ घूम रहा हो चाहे उसके साथ घूम रहा हो। भाई आपका केसीसी हो गया, आप केसीसी से पैसा लीजिए, आपका केसीसी क्लोज हो गया, अब आपका क्या है, दूसरा वेयर हाउसिंग कार्ड है, अब वहाँ जाके वहाँ से पैसा ले लीजिए। बहुत ईजी हो सकता है, बट उसको थर्ड प्रोसेस में लेके जाना पड़ेगा, बस ये कहना।
जी सरपाल जी, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे? कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
प्रश्न उठाना चाहेंगे?
नहीं, कोई प्रश्न या
आपकी तरफ से?
ओके, तो हमारा डिस्कशन
तो ये फिर हमारा राउंड टेबल में हमें कंक्लूड करना पड़ेगा। We've gone over time.
Thank you very much
for
सबके
the
points.
discussions, and I think we will now request Mr. Patnaik for his.
Have a quick group photo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to request Shri B.B. Patnaik, former chairman WDRA and ex-MD CWC. इतने प्रश्न उठे हैं WDRA और CWC के बारे में, तो would you like to sort of sum up the conversation?
Thank you, Janji. At the outset, I must not the mic. We are behind this schedule, but then since lot of heat was generated during the round tables, I think I will like to take a little more time. But before that, let me at the outset thank and congratulate NERL and Infravision for taking this initiative, for bringing all these, most of the stakeholders around the round table. Look, I will start with a caveat. And though I was a former member and chairman of WDRA, I am not discussing here as someone representing the WDRA. I would have been more happy had someone from WDRA would have been here. Because for any authority, it is always, for anyone, any organization, it's necessary to talk to the stakeholder and get the feedback. How are we working? Because it's a journey for improvement. And feedbacks are taken, if it is taken in right perspective, a lot of improvements can be done. But at least I am happy that Department of Food has taken initiative and interest in deputing Priya, who was also my colleague. She has put in more than 15 years of experience in the warehousing sector. And today she is a director in the Department of Food, looking after the WDR. So Priya, hopefully you have got the sense of the house, you are taken it in right spirit, and I do not know how we are going to communicate to WDRA, but please do take action. I am very sure about it. I would say there have been a lot of misunderstanding in the ecosystem. When we talk of warehousing for farmers and digital warehousing, ENWR for bankers, collateral managers, there are a lot of, I think there are a lot of misunderstandings. Warehousing is not today, it started in the pre-independence era, and that used to be actually distress sale then, where the farmers were forced to sell because formal banking system was not there, formal marketing system was also not involved. Today the markets are so widespread, integrated, and there is so much of information available to the farmer. As Raji said, some studies say the farmers are also storing themselves. One way, the fragmentation of the farm holding. So small produce. Small, and economy, warehousing is something of economy of scale. And if the economy is not scale, size is not coming, then it's not an economical model. So farmer today, if we are saying, if someone saying that I am servicing the farmer in WSP or any warehouse, yes, I think they are not telling the truth. Direct benefit to the farmer, farmer utilizing a warehouse. Let me tell you, Professor Raghuram says that, or I think Kidwais have said subsidizing the storage charge. My friend, my colleague from CWC is also here. Yes, he is sitting at the, they are always backbenchers, but they are really doing a great job. He will say, CWC has a scheme of giving 30% rebate to the farmers. Till today it is there. Ask any warehouse of CWC, how many farmers are coming? No, there are two reasons. Because farmers, either they immediately offload or you go to Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, they are all procured. Bulk of the commodities, rice and wheat, are procured by something. Napet, oilseed and pulses and all that. And small farmer has no meaning. So today what is happening, lot of, you may say traders or middlemen. No, they are not. They are actually aggregators. Whether it's a FPO or a trader, they are actually doing some value addition by way of aggregating the things so that it can become a sizable economic size, can be transported and warehoused. The other way where the farmer is not coming to the CWC warehouses is the distance. So distance is so long, they don't have the means. And then the other one is the benefit. Now with so much of agriculture marketing reforms, digitization, e-NAM, etc. coming, all the price knowledge, information about the price of a commodity to the farmers is such that, he says, what am I gaining by transporting the cost first, then putting the warehousing cost, and there is also some cost of obsolescence. Imagine, there will be dry, okay, dry is not a quality loss, but if it is not properly stored, there will be a quality loss, it's an obsolescence cost. So therefore, today, when we are talking of a warehousing in the context of ENWR, I think it is bulk, either the trader who is an aggregator or a processor who gets into the market, procures commodities and then brings it to a warehouse in a sufficient quantity so that he can hold it. There are certain things, I noted down. Thank you, Raghuram Sahab, you have, and the Infravision Fund or something perhaps, you have done a study. I don't know, some people may say that we have not been consulted, I don't know. But at least something is there. Good information came out. One is, we say 5,600 or 6,000 number is nothing. I am talking about the number of registered warehouses. Yes, they are nothing. But if you further granulate it, what does this number comprise of? Mostly the numbers of CWC or SWC, which is, you can say almost 1,500, 2,000. And bulk of them are not being used by the trader or farmer because they are catering to the FCI and other bulk agencies like NAPED and all that. So actual, and then again a large number, maybe around 1,500 are small packs warehouses of Tamil Nadu or elsewhere, where they have registered it, but actually they are not doing any business of ENWR and all that. So then you will find, say, not more than 1,000 numbers who are actually doing the ENWR business. Saurabhji, if I am right, I am exact number man. And how do they came into the ENWR fold? I can, since I was involved with the WDI from 2016 to 19, I can tell you that there are two things. Why the number is not in, sizable number is not there. There is an inherent defect in the Act itself. 2000 Act talks about that if someone, a warehouseman, wants to issue a negotiable warehouse receipt, then only he is required to register the warehouse. See, register the warehouse is voluntary, not compulsory. And that too, if I am not issuing a NWR, and today it is ENWR, post 2019 August, it is ENWR, I am not required to register the warehouse. So if someone is having a belief that entire warehousing ecosystem is regulated, no. What is regulated is the warehouse who is issuing a ENWR. Why that is so? Because in case of ENWR or NWR, there is, trust, the instrument of trust, receipt, the trust or confidence of the depositor or the banker on that receipt. So therefore regulations. Then somewhere I think also it comes, why it is not getting registered? Perhaps the WSP feels that why I should register if there is my receipt, which is not negotiable warehouse receipt or ENWR, my warehouse receipt itself, whether physical or digital, electronic, if that is being recognized by the banks for the purpose of finance, why should I go? So on bank says yes, if it is a regulated one, we are a little happy, but at the same time, banks are also saying, look, number of warehouses are less. If we suddenly stop only to the ENWR, our collateral payment, what you call your trade finance will come down drastically. We are talking of 4,000, 40,000, 45,000 level, and how much we are doing it in ENWR? Maybe 4,000 or 1/10 of that. So therefore it's a chicken and egg situation. Whether I should have more of a registered warehouse or I should make it compulsory for the trade finance to have only registered warehouses. RBI, you go to RBI, RBI says no, we can't do because number is not there. A number is not there because Act does not make it compulsory. Receipts of unregulated warehouse are also recognized. And so that is the position. Security deposit. There is so much of divergent views on security deposit. I remember as member WDI, we had many rounds with the IBA because unfortunately the pledge finance is not the only potentiality of NWR. NWR has many potentiality, like trading on the future exchanges. Yes, what advantage it offers or what benefit it gives, etc. So, for creating an awareness, I think media and Infravision company type of organizations are required to create a positive image, about what is the status and how we can bring it further. And there are, I think instead of talking that it goes from this ministry to that ministry, so that is less important. Rather, the concerned ministry taking it on itself to demand and ensure the delivery from the authority WDR and all that, what is supposed to deliver to the stakeholder. I think that will be important. So there are many points perhaps which was raised. I mean, it will take so much of time, but I don't want to stand in between. Your lunch is already, we have overshot. If there is any specific question from anybody which I, in my personal capacity, I can give it to you, not as representing WDR again. So I would like to say that. साहब आपकी जो था ना राजस्थान की जो ये बीमा का बात आपको बताया ना, ये राजस्थान स्टेट वायरहाउसिंग कॉर्पोरेशन उनका कोई बीमा नहीं होता है, होता था, आजकल पता नहीं कर रहे हैं कि रजिस्टर कर रहे हैं, उस समय तक तो नहीं होता था,
पहले नहीं होता था, लेकिन अब वो एजेंसी आ गई ना बीच में।
हाँ, चलो अच्छा हुआ, एक बीच में एक एजेंसी आके कोई अच्छा तो क्या?
वो अच्छा नहीं है।
अच्छा नहीं है, वो अच्छा नहीं क्या?
वही तो बुरा है सर।
अरे उन्होंने देखिए जयंत उन्होंने शायद स्टारगिरी का भी जिक्र किया, कहीं पर शायद उनको तकलीफ हो रहा है।
बढ़िया, तार का काम अच्छा।
ठीक
सर वन पॉइंट।
हाँ जी सर।
सर मेरा एक रिक्वेस्ट था सर, कि दिल्ली इज नॉट हैविंग एनी लाइसेंसिंग अथॉरिटी, दिल्ली में कोई वेयरहाउसिंग में लाइसेंसिंग अथॉरिटी नहीं है, तो देयर आर सो मेनी वेयरहाउसेस इन दिल्ली, लेकिन उनमें क्या है कि उनको कभी भी WDRA अप्रूव वेयरहाउस नहीं हो पा रहे हैं और ENWR भी नहीं हो पा रहा है, और जबकि व्हाट इज प्रैक्टिकल practically क्या है कि Delhi is merging a dark center of the India in commodity trade. तो दिल्ली में हो सकता है प्रोड्यूस ना हो, लेकिन यहाँ जो स्टॉक है, जो हब है, तो चाहे वो बिहार से आ रहा हो, चाहे आपका राजस्थान से आ रहा हो, चाहे आपका गुजरात से आ रहा हो, तो काफ़ी चीज़ें स्टॉक हो रही हैं. बट ENWR, आई एम सेइंग कि गवर्नमेंट इतना सब कुछ कर रही है, तो दिल्ली के लिए क्या एक रीज़न है कि दिल्ली में जो वेयर हाउसेज हैं, उनमें क्योंकि वेयर हाउसिंग लाइसेंसिंग अथॉरिटी है नहीं, तो व्हाट विल बी द नेक्स्ट आउटकम? यहाँ पर कोई भी दिल्ली में कोई भी ENWR इशू नहीं होता है जो दिल्ली
उसका मैं कारण बताता हूँ. एज अ WSP, लेट मी टेल यू दैट WDRA के अंदर जो रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के लिए वेयर हाउस क्वालिटी या इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो चाहिए होता है, वो दिल्ली के किसी भी वेयर हाउस में नहीं है. वन ऑफ द रीजन.
No, joint origin नहीं है. Joint origin नहीं है. Let me tell you.
Sure.
ये बात मैंने पता नहीं रघुराम साहब का में आया है या कहीं. You see, there are two type of regulation in warehousing, agri warehousing today. One is licensing. If you want to operate a public warehouse means if you are storing your own goods, fine. But if you are doing for somebody else, you need to license that warehouse, and that licensing authority is state government, various department. कोई पर cooperation department है, कोई agriculture marketing department है, कोई वो है. वो licensing of a warehouse. Even CWC also, every state, हर state में हर licensing authority से license देते हैं. Second one is regulation registration of warehouse for ENWR business. Now in the proposed amendment, सर एक सेकंड सर मेरे को
सुनिए ना, बात सिर्फ इतनी सी है कि दिल्ली में
है नहीं.
सुन तो लीजिए. सिर्फ उनका सवाल इतना है कि दिल्ली में WDRA रजिस्टर करेगा या नहीं.
एक बताता हूँ आपको, वही बताता हूँ आप. तो in case of in Delhi, the authority had taken up with the Delhi government that why are you not licensing the warehouse? उनका चीफ सेक्रेटरी तक हम गए डिस्कशन के साथ, we are coming out with a master plan, we will earmark warehousing zone, then only we will do it. Then I think if I remember, internally we had taken a decision, WDRA, I don't know whether it's valid today. They will, a warehouse man will give a self-declaration and the warehouse will be registered. And there are many warehouses in Delhi who are far more better in infrastructure. ये नहीं कि सारा warehouse दिल्ली में आप जाएंगे वो नरेला का बगल में कौन सा जगह है, अलीपुर बहुत सारे warehouse काफी अच्छे हो बढ़िया. वो सब तो FCI के लिए किन दिनों में बनाए थे. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेफिसिट नहीं है. ये इसी कारण जो कि there is no licensing of warehouse by Delhi government, WDRA is saying look, you have not taken the license, then therefore not doing. So I think that from the WDRA it has taken with the highest level in Delhi government, and they are just saying that we are waiting for a comprehensive master plan where we will earmark warehousing zone, then only we can start licensing. So वो स्थिति है. So yeah, Priya, from the government of India, if we can do something to prevail upon or give direction to WDRA, that look, since there is no licensing in UT of Delhi, so you satisfy about the structural or infrastructure fitness about it and do registration. But this is a valid point that no registration, therefore ENWR cannot be generated. Yes. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Usual ritual.
Thank you. Useful discussions. May I request Abhishek Rai, Chief Marketing and HR, NERL, to come and deliver the vote of thanks, and then Jagan Shah, our CEO.
Just Abhishek.
Oh, no, I think we'd like you to also do that. Jagan Shah, our CEO, CEO of Infravision Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time on a busy Monday morning for an engaging and an impactful session and a dialogue, which was very much required. And I'll just quickly go one by one about how the whole session went. We started with Mr. Vinayak in the morning, and he actually, yeah, I'll just, so it's like, it was nice. He started, and thanks to him for his insight, and he spoke about solar. Then our sincere thanks and gratitude to Mr. Faiz Ahmed Khidwai for making it and taking out time for the conference today, for the round table. And he actually talked about ideal agriculture marketing framework.